What if you could step into the past and witness the very moments that shaped our world? Picture standing at the base of the Great Pyramid of Giza, its massive stones whispering secrets from 4,500 years ago. This isn't just an ancient structure, it's a living testament to human ingenuity, a puzzle that still baffles engineers today. Monuments like these are more than stone and mortar. They're the DNA of civilization, encoding stories of ambition, faith, and the unyielding drive to leave a mark on history. Across every continent, from the sun-baked temples of Mesopotamia to the soaring cathedrals of medieval Europe, these architectural wonders are the milestones of our collective journey. They're the physical proof of how societies rose, clashed, and transformed, leaving behind clues that help us unravel who we are and how we got here. Think about the last time you stood in the shadow of something truly awe-inspiring, maybe a towering skyscraper or an ancient castle. There's a humbling feeling that washes over you, a sense of connection to the people who dreamed, built, and walked those same steps centuries before you. That's the power of historical monuments. They're not relics frozen in time. They're mirrors reflecting the triumphs and struggles of humanity. Take the Colosseum in Rome, where the roar of crowds once echoed through the ages, or the serene beauty of Angkor, where every carving tells a story of spiritual devotion. These places don't just belong to the past, they speak to us, challenging us to piece together the puzzle of how civilizations flourished, faltered, and reinvented themselves. Today, we're setting off on an extraordinary journey to explore 40 of these monumental landmarks, each a cornerstone in the rise of human civilization. From the mystical stone circles of Stonehenge to the grandeur of the Taj Mahal, we'll uncover how these structures shaped empires, inspired revolutions, and became symbols of cultural identity. You'll discover how the Parthenon embodied the ideals of ancient democracy, how the Great Wall of China redefined borders and power, and how Machu Picchu vanished into legend only to be reborn as a beacon of Inca brilliance. This isn't just a tour of famous sites, it's a detective story, piecing together how humanity's greatest achievements were born from stone, sweat, and vision. So let's step through the doorway of history together, where every monument has a story waiting to be heard. Deep in the rolling hills of southeastern Turkey, a discovery so startling emerged that it shattered everything we thought we knew about early human civilization. Göbekli Tepe, a sprawling complex of carved limestone pillars arranged in massive stone circles, isn't just old, it's ancient beyond comprehension. Built around 11,500 years ago, this site predates the invention of the wheel, the rise of agriculture, even the construction of Egypt's pyramids by a staggering 6,000 years. What makes it truly revolutionary? The people who built it weren't settled farmers living in bustling villages. They were hunter-gatherers, nomads who supposedly lacked the resources or organization for such ambitious projects. Yet here stands Göbekli Tepe, its towering T-shaped pillars adorned with intricate carvings of scorpions, lions, and vultures, each stone whispering secrets of a forgotten era. Archaeologists initially scratched their heads at the site's purpose, but one theory has gained traction. This was the world's first temple, a sacred space where scattered clans gathered for rituals that bound them together. The pillars, some weighing over 15 tons, were quarried from nearby bedrock and transported without the use of animals or wheels, a feat that would have required hundreds of people working in unison. This suggests something extraordinary, that organized religion, not farming or economics, may have been the glue that first brought humans into large, cooperative societies. Imagine groups of hunter-gatherers converging here seasonally, drawn not by the need to plant crops but by shared beliefs, carving their myths into stone as they forged the earliest bonds of community. What's even more fascinating is what Göbekli Tepe lacks. There's no evidence of permanent dwellings, no granaries or tools for farming. Instead, the site is filled with animal bones from feasts, hinting at temporary gatherings centered around celebration and ceremony. This turns the traditional narrative of civilization on its head. For decades, historians believed that humans first settled down to farm, and only then had the surplus time and resources to build monuments and develop religions. But Göbekli Tepe flips that script, proving that spiritual devotion might have been the spark that ignited communal living, paving the way for villages, cities, and empires. Then, just as mysteriously as it was built, Göbekli Tepe was deliberately buried around 8000 BC, carefully covered with earth as if its creators wanted to preserve it for future generations, or perhaps hide it from them. The reason remains one of archaeology's great enigmas, but the message is clear. Humanity's story is far older and more complex than we ever imagined. This isn't just a collection of stones, it's a portal to the dawn of civilization, a place where the spiritual and the social collided to create the world we know today. And as we peel back its layers, we're forced to ask, what other surprises lie buried, waiting to rewrite history once more? From the sacred stones of Göbekli Tepe, we leap forward in time to another marvel that defies explanation, the Great Pyramid of Giza, a towering testament to human ambition that has stood unchallenged for over 4,500 years. Built as the eternal resting place for Pharaoh Khufu around 2580 BCE, this isn't just a tomb. It's a precision-engineered masterpiece that continues to stump modern scientists and engineers. Imagine standing at its base, craning your neck to take in its original height of 480 feet, a staggering feat achieved without cranes, pulleys, or even the wheel. But what truly sets the Great Pyramid apart isn't just its scale. It's the mind-bending accuracy woven into every detail. The pyramid's four sides align almost perfectly with the cardinal directions north, south, east, and west, with a margin of error so slight it rivals modern GPS technology. How did ancient Egyptians achieve such precision? Some theories point to their sophisticated understanding of astronomy, using the stars as their compass. Others suggest they harnessed the sun's shadow with simple but ingenious tools like the Merkit, an ancient timekeeping device. Then there's the pi phenomenon. The ratio of the pyramid's perimeter to its height mirrors the mathematical constant pi, a relationship so precise it hints at advanced geometric knowledge centuries before Greece's Pythagoras formalized it. But the real enigma lies in the construction itself. Over 2 million limestone blocks, each weighing an average of 2.5 tons, were quarried, transported, and fitted together with gaps thinner than a credit card. Traditional narratives once painted this as the work of slaves, but modern discoveries tell a different story. The nearby workers' village, uncovered in the 1990s, revealed bakeries, breweries, and medical facilities, evidence of a skilled, well-fed labor force likely motivated by wages or religious duty. This wasn't brute force oppression. It was a society marshalling its collective expertise to achieve the impossible. The pyramid's purpose transcends mere burial. Its chambers and passageways align with celestial events, like the northern shaft pointing directly to the pole star, symbolizing Khufu's soul ascending to the heavens. The entire structure served as a cosmic bridge between Earth and the divine, a physical manifestation of the pharaoh's godlike authority. And here's the twist: for all its grandeur, the pyramid's interior lacks the lavish inscriptions found in later tombs. Its power lies in its silence, its perfect geometry speaking louder than any hieroglyph. Today, As lasers scan its hidden corridors and robots explore its narrow shafts, the Great Pyramid still guards its secrets. Was it purely a tomb, or did it serve as an ancient power plant, an energy transducer, as some fringe theories suggest? Whatever the truth, one thing is undeniable. This monument captures the essence of civilization's rise, the fusion of faith, science, and sheer human will to leave a mark that echoes across millennia. And as we gaze up at its weathered stones, we're left wondering, if they could achieve this with copper tools and rope, what does that say about the untapped potential of collective human imagination? Shrouded in the misty plains of southern England, Stonehenge rises like a silent sentinel from the Neolithic age, its purpose as enigmatic today as it was 4,500 years ago. This sprawling circle of massive sarsen stones, some weighing up to 25 tons, isn't just a relic, it's a riddle carved in rock, a puzzle that has sparked debates among archaeologists, astronomers, and spiritual seekers for generations. What drove ancient peoples to haul these colossal slabs from quarries nearly 20 miles away, painstakingly arranging them into a precise ring that captures the first light of the summer solstice? The answer may lie in the very human desire to make sense of the cosmos, to mark time, and to commune with forces greater than ourselves. The most striking feature of Stonehenge is its celestial alignment. During the summer solstice, the rising sun perfectly bisects the monument's central axis, casting a golden beam through the heart of the stone circle. This wasn't accidental, it required meticulous observation of the sun's path across generations. But Stonehenge's relationship with the heavens goes deeper. Recent studies suggest its smaller bluestones, transported an astonishing 140 miles from Wales' Preseli Hills, may have been chosen not just for their durability, but for their perceived healing properties. Ancient societies often linked certain rocks to spiritual energy, and these bluestones, when struck, produce a resonant, almost musical tone. Could Stonehenge have been a prehistoric hospital where the sick sought cures through sound and ritual? Then there's the mystery of the Aubrey Holes, 56 pits encircling the monument filled with cremated human remains. This grisly detail hints at another function, a vast necropolis where the dead were honored under the watchful gaze of the stones. Yet Stonehenge's duality, part observatory, part cemetery, part shrine, reveals something profound about early civilization. It wasn't just about survival, it was about seeking meaning. The effort to transport, carve, and erect these stones speaks to a society capable of long-term planning, communal labor, and shared belief systems strong enough to unite people across vast distances. What's often overlooked is the surrounding landscape. Stonehenge isn't isolated, it's part of a sprawling ceremonial complex that includes the nearby Durrington Walls, a massive settlement where feasts were held, and the Cursus, a mysterious 2-mile-long earthwork. Together, they form a ritualistic theater where life, death, and the cosmos intertwined. The stones themselves were likely just one piece of a grander spiritual puzzle, a place where the living gathered to honor ancestors, predict seasons, and perhaps even negotiate alliances between tribes. Modern technology continues to peel back layers of this mystery. Ground-penetrating radar has revealed hidden pits and pathways, suggesting the site was constantly evolving, adapted over centuries by successive generations. Each discovery deepens the intrigue. Was Stonehenge an ancient calendar, a temple to the sun, or a bridge between worlds? The truth may be all these things and more, a testament to humanity's enduring quest to leave a mark, not just on the land but on the very fabric of time. As we stand in its shadow today, we're reminded that some questions defy easy answers, and that the past still has secrets to whisper if we're willing to listen. Rising from the sun-baked plains of ancient Mesopotamia, the Ziggurat of Ur stands as a towering symbol of humanity's first great urban experiment. Built around 4,100 years ago in the heart of Sumer, this massive stepped pyramid wasn't just a temple. It was the beating heart of a civilization that invented writing, law, and the very concept of cities. Unlike the smooth-sided pyramids of Egypt, the Ziggurat's three ascending tiers, each painted a different color, formed a celestial staircase believed to connect the earthly realm with the divine. At its summit, a gleaming shrine dedicated to Nana, the moon god, served as a physical meeting point between priests and the heavens, reinforcing the sacred bond between mortal rulers and the gods they served. What makes the Ziggurat of Ur truly revolutionary is how it embodies the birth of bureaucracy. Surrounding its base, archaeologists have uncovered vast storehouses, scribble schools, and administrative offices, evidence of a society that tracked grain shipments with early cuneiform tablets and organized labor on an unprecedented scale. This wasn't just a place of worship, it was the world's first city hall, where religion and governance intertwined. The Sumerians saw no separation between the spiritual and the practical. Every harvest, every law, every trade agreement was divinely ordained. The Ziggurat's very construction, requiring millions of mud bricks and precise coordination, mirrored the emerging social order, a hierarchy with priests and kings at the top, directing the labor of thousands. The structure's design reveals deeper layers of meaning. Each tier represented a step closer to the gods, with the lowest level painted black for the underworld, the middle red for the mortal realm, and the uppermost white for the celestial sphere. Processions of priests would ascend this symbolic ladder during rituals, their chants echoing across Ur's bustling streets. For ordinary citizens, the Ziggurat was more than architecture. It was a daily reminder of their place in a cosmic order. Even the bricks bore inscriptions naming King Ur-Nammu, who commissioned the monument, blending royal propaganda with sacred duty. Modern excavations have uncovered something startling. The Ziggurat was rebuilt multiple times, each iteration grander than the last. Like rings in a tree, these layers tell a story of a society in flux, where each generation sought to outdo the past in displays of piety and power. Yet for all its grandeur, the Ziggurat's legacy transcends stone. It pioneered the idea that humans could shape their environment on a monumental scale, that collective effort could reach toward the divine. When later civilizations, from Babylon to the Aztecs, built their own stepped pyramids, they were walking a path first laid by the Sumerians. Today, as the ruins of Ur bake under the same Iraqi sun that witnessed its glory, we're left with a profound question. How much of our modern world, from city planning to the very notion of leadership, still carries echoes of this ancient stairway to heaven? On the sun-drenched island of Crete, the palace of Knossos unfolds like a living storybook, its corridors whispering tales of Europe's first advanced civilization. Built around 3,700 years ago, this sprawling complex wasn't just a royal residence, it was the vibrant hub of the Minoans, a seafaring people whose artistry and ingenuity rivaled their Egyptian and Mesopotamian contemporaries. Step inside and you're greeted by a riot of color, frescoes of leaping dolphins, saffron gatherers, and ceremonial processions that pulse with life, their pigment still vivid after millennia. But what truly sets Knossos apart isn't just its beauty, it's the revelation of a society that flourished without fortifications, a peaceful anomaly in an age of conquest. The palace's labyrinthine layout, with its 300 rooms spread across multiple levels, gave rise to the myth of the Minotaur's maze. Yet far from a monster's lair, this was a marvel of urban planning. Courtyards channeled cooling breezes, light wells illuminated lower floors, and an advanced drainage system carried fresh water through terracotta pipes while flushing waste away, luxuries unmatched until Roman times. The throne room, with its gypsum seat flanked by frescoed griffins, wasn't just a seat of power but a sacred space where rulers likely performed rituals as both kings and high priests. Here, authority blended seamlessly with spirituality, reflected in the omnipresent symbols of bulls and double axes, emblems of a culture that revered nature's power. Trade was the lifeblood of Knossos. Storage magazines held giant pithoi jars brimming with olive oil, wine, and grain, commodities traded as far as Egypt and Anatolia. The Minoans' distinctive octopus-adorned pottery became a status symbol across the Mediterranean, while their mastery of bronze work and jewelry making hinted at a society that valued craftsmanship as much as commerce. Unlike contemporary empires, Minoan art rarely glorified war. Instead, it celebrated athletic contests like bull leaping, a daring acrobatic ritual where youths somersaulted over charging bulls, captured in dynamic frescoes that freeze these moments of grace and danger. Perhaps most striking is what's missing: defensive walls. While other Bronze Age powers barricaded themselves behind towering ramparts, Knossos stood open, its security resting on naval supremacy and diplomatic networks. Women appear frequently in frescoes as priestesses and spectators, suggesting greater gender equality than in later Greek societies. The absence of grandiose royal tombs implies leadership based on merit or ritual role rather than divine kingship. This was a civilization that thrived on connection, not conquest, until its abrupt collapse, possibly from volcanic eruption or invasion, left behind a legacy that would inspire the Greeks' own myths of a golden age. Today, as archaeologists decipher linear script tablets and reconstruct earthquake-damaged columns, Knossos challenges our assumptions about what makes a civilization advanced. Its ruins remind us that progress isn't always measured in monuments to power, but sometimes in the quiet revolutions of plumbing, art, and the courage to build without walls. Snaking across mountains and deserts like a stone dragon, the Great Wall of China isn't just a barrier, it's a breathtaking contradiction. Stretching over 13,000 miles, this engineering marvel wasn't built in one era by one ruler, but pieced together over 2,000 years by successive dynasties, each adding their own chapters to its story. From the packed earth ramparts of the Qin dynasty to the iconic brick and mortar towers of the Ming, the wall evolved as a living testament to China's shifting fortunes. But here's the twist: while its sheer scale suggests impenetrable isolation, the wall also became an unexpected catalyst for connection, weaving together the very cultures it was designed to keep out. The wall's origins reveal a desperate gamble. When the first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, unified China in 221 BCE, he faced a relentless threat from the Xiongnu nomads of the northern steppes. Their lightning-fast horseback raids left farming villages vulnerable, so Qin ordered the linking of existing fortifications into a continuous shield. The cost was staggering. Historians estimate that hundreds of thousands of laborers, including soldiers and convicts, perished during construction, their bodies often buried within the wall itself. Yet this sacrifice birthed something revolutionary: the idea of China as a unified entity protected by a single, monumental border. The wall wasn't just stone, it was propaganda, a physical manifestation of the emperor's power to reshape the land and defend his vision of civilization. Centuries later, the Ming dynasty elevated the wall to its iconic form. Facing renewed Mongol threats, they constructed the sturdy battlements we recognize today: 25,000 watchtowers spaced at arrow-shot intervals, their signal fires capable of relaying messages from one end of the empire to the other in just 24 hours. Soldiers stationed in these towers didn't just stand guard, they became cultural intermediaries, trading goods and gossip with the very nomads they monitored. Silk, spices, and ideas flowed through guarded gates like the Jiang Pass, turning the wall into a spine of the Silk Road. What's often overlooked is the wall's psychological impact. For farmers in the Yellow River Valley, its looming presence offered a sense of security, reinforcing the divide between the civilized world and the chaotic wilderness beyond. Yet for the nomads, the wall was a provocation, a challenge to either breach or circumvent. Ironically, its very strength sometimes backfired when the Manchu Qing dynasty finally breached the wall in 1644. They didn't destroy it. Instead, they embraced it as a symbol of their new dominion, proving that even the mightiest barriers can't withstand the tide of cultural exchange. Today, as satellites map its crumbling sections and tourists hike its restored stretches, the Great Wall whispers a timeless lesson, that division and connection are two sides of the same coin. It stands as a monument not just to fear, but to the enduring human instinct to reach beyond the horizon, whether to trade, to conquer, or simply to understand. Rising from the heart of Rome like a monument to both genius and savagery, the Colosseum stands as a paradox of ancient civilization. Completed in 80 CE under Emperor Titus, this massive amphitheater could hold 50,000 roaring spectators, a feat of engineering that still influences stadium design today. But what made it revolutionary wasn't just its scale. It was how it functioned as a tool of social control. The Romans didn't just build an arena, they crafted a psychological weapon where the thrill of spectacle masked the iron fist of imperial power. Imagine the scene as the crowd filed in through 76 numbered entrances, a system so efficient it could empty the entire structure in minutes. Senators reclined on marble seats closest to the action, while women and slaves were relegated to the upper tiers, a vertical map of Roman society. Below the wooden floor lay a labyrinth of tunnels and elevators, the hypogeum, where animals and gladiators awaited their turn to ascend through trapdoors. This wasn't just backstage, it was a theater of suspense, designed to surprise audiences with lions bursting from hidden pits or gladiators appearing as if by magic. The games themselves were a calculated display of Rome's dominance. When the Colosseum opened, Titus staged 100 days of continuous spectacles, featuring everything from exotic animal hunts to mock naval battles. The arena could be flooded with water from a nearby aqueduct. But the gladiator fights were the main event, where prisoners, slaves, and even volunteers fought not just for survival, but for glory. The crowd's roaring approval could spare a defeated combatant, turning bloodsport into a twisted form of democracy. Yet the Colosseum's true innovation wasn't its violence, it was its inclusivity. Unlike Greek theaters reserved for elites, this was entertainment for the masses, funded by emperors to pacify the populace. Bread and circuses, as the saying went, kept citizens docile while Rome expanded its borders. The arena became a microcosm of the empire itself, diverse, technologically advanced, and ruthlessly efficient. Today, as moonlight bathes its crumbling arches, the Colosseum whispers a darker truth. The same society that gave us roads, laws, and aqueducts also perfected the art of organized cruelty. Its legacy isn't just in the concrete recipe that allowed its survival: pozzolana ash mixed with volcanic rock, but in the uncomfortable question it forces us to confront. How thin is the line between civilization and barbarism when the crowd cheers for both? Emerging from the jungles of Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, Chichen Itza's El Castillo Pyramid doesn't just dominate the landscape, it converses with the cosmos. Built by the Maya over 1,000 years ago, this 90-foot-tall temple is a masterpiece of celestial engineering. Its 4 stairways, each boasting 91 steps that, when combined with the shared platform at the top, total 365. That's no coincidence, it's a stone calendar mirroring the solar year, a testament to the Maya's obsession with timekeeping so precise their calculations were more accurate than Europe's until the Gregorian reform in the 16th century. But the real magic happens during the equinoxes, when the setting sun casts triangular shadows down the northern staircase, merging with stone serpent heads at the base to create the illusion of a feathered slithering down the pyramid, an awe-inspiring symbol of Kukulkan, the plumed serpent deity bridging earth and sky. Beyond its astronomical theatrics, Chichen Itza reveals the sophistication of Mayan urban planning. The Temple of the Warriors, with its forest of carved columns depicting battle scenes, sits beside the largest ball court in Mesoamerica, a 500-foot-long arena where players ricocheted a rubber ball off their hips through stone hoops, in a ritual that may have ended with human sacrifice. Nearby, the circular El Caracol Observatory, with its narrow slit windows aligned to Venus's movements, proves the Maya didn't just watch the stars. They mapped planetary cycles to guide planting, warfare, and religious ceremonies. The entire city was a machine for living in harmony with the universe, where mathematics, architecture, and spirituality intertwined. Yet Chichen Itza's brilliance couldn't shield it from collapse. By the 13th century, prolonged droughts and overpopulation strained resources, while internal power struggles fractured political unity. The Great Cenote, a sacred sinkhole where offerings, including human remains, were cast to appease the rain god Chok, became a grim symbol of desperation as the water table dropped. Unlike the abrupt falls of Rome or Knossos, the Maya's decline was a slow unraveling, a cautionary tale about how even the most advanced societies falter when their environment and leadership fail them. Today, as equinox crowds gasp at Kukulkan's shadowy descent, the ruins whisper a dual legacy: the heights human ingenuity can reach and the humility nature demands. The Maya didn't vanish, their descendants still live across the region, but their golden age at Chichen Itza stands frozen in stone, a reminder that no civilization, no matter how towering its pyramids, is immune to time's tides. Crowning the rocky heights of Athens' Acropolis, the Parthenon isn't just a temple, it's a marble manifesto of democracy carved in stone. Built between 447 and 432 BCE, this monument to Athena Parthenos, the city's patron goddess, was funded by the treasury of the Delian League, a coalition of Greek states. But here's what makes it revolutionary: the decision to build it wasn't decreed by a king or tyrant. It was voted on by Athens' citizen assembly, a radical act of collective will in an age when most civilizations bowed to autocrats. Every aspect of its design, from the 8 towering Doric columns at each end to the intricate frieze depicting the Panathenaic procession, was a celebration of civic pride and shared identity. Look closer and the Parthenon reveals astonishing subtleties. The columns bulge slightly in the middle, a technique called intosses, to counteract the optical illusion that straight lines appear concave from a distance. The platform curves upward at the center, defying the naked eye to create a sense of perfect horizontality. These weren't just aesthetic choices, they were mathematical triumphs, reflecting the Greeks' belief that beauty and rationality were inseparable. Inside, Phidias' colossal gold and ivory statue of Athena wasn't merely an object of worship, it was a financial safeguard, its removable gold plates serving as a reserve for civic emergencies. This was architecture as philosophy, where every element served both the gods and the people. Yet the Parthenon's true genius lies in its sculptural storytelling. The metopes, square panels above the columns, show battles between gods and giants, Greeks and Amazons, all symbolizing civilization's triumph over chaos. The east pediment depicted Athena's birth, while the west showed her contest with Poseidon for Athens' patronage. Most remarkably, the continuous frieze inside the colonnade broke tradition by portraying ordinary Athenians in the sacred space, mingling with gods during the city's greatest festival. For the first time in history, mortal citizens were literally carved into their temple's narrative, a stone testament to democracy's sacred value. The Parthenon's later life reads like a palimpsest of Mediterranean history. Converted into a Christian basilica in the 6th century, its pagan sculptures were defaced or removed. After the Ottoman conquest, it became a mosque with a minaret added beside its porch. Then, in 1687, a Venetian cannonball struck the building, then used as an Ottoman gunpowder store, triggering an explosion that blew out its central section. Through it all, the Parthenon endured, each transformation layering new meanings onto its original purpose. Today, as restoration cranes hover over its sun-bleached columns, the Parthenon poses a provocative question: can a monument built to celebrate one civilization's ideals become universal? Its surviving sculptures, now scattered from London to Athens, have sparked debates about cultural ownership and the fluid nature of heritage. Yet perhaps its greatest lesson is more timeless, that true greatness, whether in stone or society, lies not in rigid permanence, but in the ability to inspire across ages, even as the world changes around it. Hidden in the dense jungles of Cambodia, Angkor Wat emerges like a mirage, a sprawling stone hymn to both divinity and earthly power. Built in the early 12th century by King Suryavarman II, this temple complex wasn't just a place of worship, it was the cosmic blueprint of an empire. Designed as a microcosm of the Hindu universe, its 5 lotus-like towers represent Mount Meru, the mythical home of the gods, while its vast moat mirrors the primordial ocean. But what sets Angkor Wat apart isn't just its scale, it's the audacity of its vision. Unlike most temples facing east toward the rising sun, this one aligns to the west, a direction traditionally associated with death in Hindu lore. Some scholars believe this was a deliberate choice, transforming the temple into a funerary monument for the king, ensuring his eternal union with Vishnu, the preserver god. Step closer, and the stone walls come alive with over 1,200 square meters of bas-reliefs, carving stories into every surface. One panel depicts the churning of the ocean of milk, a Hindu creation myth where gods and demons wrestle a massive serpent to extract the elixir of immortality. Another shows Suryavarman himself, larger than life, leading his troops into battle, a bold fusion of sacred narrative and royal propaganda. Yet interspersed with these grand epics are quiet moments of daily life, farmers tending rice paddies, dancers mid-twirl, even a woman giving birth. This wasn't just art, it was a deliberate assertion that the Khmer Empire's prosperity was divinely ordained, its people part of a celestial order. The temple's transformation from Hindu shrine to Buddhist sanctuary mirrors the region's spiritual evolution. By the late 13th century, as Theravada Buddhism swept across Southeast Asia, Angkor Wat's Vishnu statues were gently rededicated to the Buddha, its walls adorned with new frescoes of enlightened beings. This shift wasn't violent or abrupt, it was a testament to the Khmer people's ability to absorb change while preserving their architectural heritage. The same stones that once echoed with Vedic chants now resonated with Buddhist mantras, proving that sacred spaces can evolve without erasing their past. Then, around the 15th century, Angkor Wat was abandoned. The reasons remain debated: climate change disrupting monsoon patterns, neighboring empires sacking the capital, or simply the center of power shifting south. For centuries, the jungle swallowed its courtyards, strangling towers with serpentine roots while bats nested in its galleries. It wasn't until the 1860s that French explorer Henry Mauhat rediscovered it, though locals had never truly forgotten its presence. The temple's gradual reclamation by nature offers a humbling lesson: no empire, no matter how magnificent, is immune to time's slow unraveling. Today, as dawn light gilds its towers, Angkor Wat straddles two worlds. It's both a pilgrimage site for monks and a bucket list destination for travelers, its stones bearing the fingerprints of centuries. Archaeologists using LiDAR technology have uncovered an even grander truth. The temple was merely the heart of a vast urban network, a metropolis stretching over 400 square kilometers. This wasn't just a sanctuary in the wild, it was the nucleus of a civilization that once rivaled any on Earth. And as the sun climbs higher, burning off the morning mist, those ancient walls seem to whisper, greatness isn't measured by how long something lasts, but by how deeply it echoes across the ages. Buried beneath the dry earth of China's Shaanxi province, the Terracotta Army stands frozen in time, an eternal battalion waiting for a war that never came. In 1974, farmers digging a well stumbled upon one of history's most astonishing archaeological finds. Thousands of life-sized clay soldiers, each with a unique face, arranged in battle formation to guard the tomb of Qin Shi Huang, the ruthless unifier of China. This wasn't just a funeral display, it was an entire subterranean kingdom, a mirror of the emperor's earthly power projected into the afterlife. What makes these statues extraordinary isn't just their scale, over 8,000 soldiers, along with horses and chariots, but their breathtaking individuality. No two faces are alike. Some wear expressions of youthful determination, others the weathered resolve of seasoned veterans. Their hairstyles, armor, and even the tread on their shoes reflect precise military ranks, from infantrymen to archers to generals. This was mass production with an artisan's touch, achieved through an assembly line process where bodies were molded from standardized parts, then customized with unique heads and details before firing in giant kilns. The result, an army of astonishing diversity, as if the emperor had commissioned portraits of every soldier who ever served him. The ambition behind this project reveals Qin Shi Huang's obsession with immortality. After conquering 6 warring states to create a unified China in 221 BCE, he became fixated on defying death. Alchemists fed him mercury pills believed to prolong life, ironically likely hastening his demise, while laborers toiled for decades on his mausoleum complex. The Terracotta Army was just the tip of the iceberg. Ancient texts describe his tomb as a miniature universe with rivers of mercury and constellations of pearls, though its central chamber remains unopened, protected by booby traps and the Chinese government's caution. Yet the army also embodies the emperor's darker legacy. The same efficiency that produced these statues also enabled his tyranny. Standardized weights, measures, and writing systems unified China, but dissent was crushed. Scholars were buried alive, books burned. The soldiers originally bore real weapons, bronze swords and crossbows so well preserved they could still draw blood. This duality, artistic brilliance paired with authoritarian control, set the template for Chinese imperial rule for the next 2 millennia. Modern technology has peeled back layers of the site's secrets. Pigment analysis reveals the statues were once vibrantly painted purple tunics, green sashes, though most colors faded when exposed to air. DNA studies suggest artisans may have modeled faces after real ethnic groups from across the empire, turning the pits into a census of Qin's conquered peoples. And recent scans hint at even more figures waiting underground, including acrobats and bureaucrats, proving the emperor intended to take his entire court into eternity. Standing before these silent sentinels today, we're left with a haunting question. Did Qin Shi Huang fear the afterlife, or was this colossal project the ultimate act of arrogance, a conqueror so certain of his dominance that he expected to command even in death? The terracotta army offers no answers, only the unblinking gaze of 8,000 clay eyes, watching as centuries turn to dust around them. Perched high in the Andes, where clouds cling to the mountains like whispers, Machu Picchu remains the Inca Empire's most breathtaking legacy. Built in the mid-15th century as a royal estate for Emperor Pachacuti, this lost city of the Incas wasn't just a retreat, it was a masterpiece of harmony between human ambition and nature's will. What makes it extraordinary isn't merely its staggering beauty, but how every stone, terrace, and temple was crafted to converse with the earth and sky. The Incas didn't conquer this landscape. They courted it, shaping Machu Picchu into a celestial dance partner that still sways with the seasons. Walk through its ruins today, and you'll witness engineering so precise it defies logic. The agricultural terraces, carved like stairways for giants, weren't just for growing crops, they were a genius solution to erosion, their layered drainage systems preventing landslides on the steep slopes. Dry stone walls, assembled without mortar, fit together so tightly that not even a blade of grass could slip between them, their interlocking stones flexing during earthquakes rather than crumbling. Even the foundations were designed with foresight. Crushed rock layers beneath the buildings acted as shock absorbers, ensuring Machu Picchu's survival in one of the most seismically active regions on Earth. This wasn't construction, it was a love letter to longevity. The site's spiritual heartbeat pulses through its celestial alignments. The Temple of the Sun, with its curved wall and trapezoidal window, captures the first rays of the winter solstice, illuminating a ceremonial stone like a spotlight. Nearby, the Intihuatana, or hitching post of the sun, served as an astronomical clock, its angles casting shadows that marked the equinoxes with pinpoint accuracy. For the Incas, who worshipped the sun god Inti, these weren't just architectural flourishes, they were sacred contracts with the cosmos, ensuring balance between the human and divine. Machu Picchu's greatest irony, its preservation owes everything to its abandonment. When Spanish conquistadors toppled the Inca Empire in the 16th century, they never found this hidden citadel. Overgrown by jungle, it faded into legend until archaeologist Hiram Bingham's rediscovery in 1911. Unlike Cusco, where colonial churches were built atop raised Inca temples, Machu Picchu remained untouched, a time capsule of pre-Columbian genius. The very isolation that once shielded it from invaders now shields it from the full erosion of time, yet the site's true lesson lies deeper than its stones. The Incas saw no division between utility and spirituality, between conquering challenges and respecting nature's limits. Their terraces mimicked the mountain's contours, their canals followed the water's natural flow. In an age of climate crises, their example resonates with urgent clarity. Civilization thrives not by dominating the landscape, but by learning its rhythms. As dawn breaks over Machu Picchu's silhouette, painting the peaks gold, it's hard not to wonder what could we build today if we listened to the earth as intently as they did. Standing sentinel on the wind-scoured shores of Easter Island, the Moai are more than statues, they're silent witnesses to one of humanity's most astonishing feats of creativity and, ultimately, self-destruction. Carved from compressed volcanic ash between the 13th and 16th centuries, these towering figures with their solemn, elongated faces and heavy brows weren't mere decorations. Each one represented a sacred ancestor, a conduit between the living Rapa Nui people and the spirit world, their backs turned to the sea as if guarding the island's fragile existence. But what makes these giants truly remarkable isn't just their spiritual significance, it's the story of how a small, isolated society with no metal tools or wheels managed to quarry, carve, and transport nearly 900 of these colossal figures, some weighing as much as 80 tons. The process began at Ronoroku, the volcanic quarry where over half the moai still remain, half buried in the earth like unfinished sentinels. Using nothing but basalt stone picks, teams of craftsmen would chisel the figures directly from the cliff face, working from the top down to create those distinctive sloping foreheads and angular chins. Once freed, the statues were painstakingly lowered down the crater's slopes using a system of ropes and log rollers, a feat of engineering that would have required precise coordination and brute strength. But the real mystery lies in how they moved these multi-ton giants across miles of rugged terrain to their final platforms, or ahu. Oral traditions speak of the statues walking with the help of divine intervention, while modern experiments suggest a rocking motion, with teams tugging ropes to pivot the moai forward in a slow, swaying dance across the landscape. This monumental effort came at a cost. As the moai cult intensified, the island's once lush palm forests were stripped bare, logs became rollers for transport, and cleared land made way for agriculture to feed the growing population. Without trees to anchor the soil, erosion set in, and the loss of canoe-building timber severed the Rapa Nui's connection to the sea, their lifeline for fishing and trade. By the time European explorers arrived in the 18th century, the society had collapsed into warfare and famine, its people outnumbered by the very statues they'd created. The moai, toppled from their platforms by rival clans, lay face down in the dirt, their hollow eye sockets staring blindly at an ecological catastrophe they'd unwittingly foreshadowed. Yet the moai's legacy isn't just a warning, it's a testament to the universal human drive to create meaning against all odds. In their isolation, the Rapa Nui didn't merely survive. They conceived art on a scale that rivals the pyramids, their vision undimmed by their distance from the world. Today, as conservationists work to preserve the moai from salt erosion and rising seas, these silent giants challenge us to ask, what monuments are we building, and what price will future generations pay for our ambition? Their weathered faces seem to whisper that greatness and fragility are inseparable companions on the long journey of civilization. Emerging from the rose-red cliffs of southern Jordan like a mirage, Petra defies the harsh desert with its breathtaking fusion of nature and human ingenuity. This ancient Nabatean city, carved directly into the sheer rock faces around the 4th century BCE, wasn't just a settlement. It was a marvel of engineering and cultural crossroads, where caravan routes from Arabia, Egypt, and the Mediterranean converged. The moment you step through the Sikh, a narrow, winding canyon flanked by towering sandstone walls, you're walking the same path where spice-laden camels once trod, their goods destined for markets across the ancient world. And then, as the path suddenly opens, there it stands, Al-Kosneh, the treasury, its ornate Hellenistic facade glowing like a jewel in the sunlight, a testament to the Nabateans' mastery of stone and their ability to absorb influences from distant lands. What made Petra truly extraordinary wasn't just its grandeur, but its defiance of the desert itself. In a region where water was scarcer than gold, the Nabateans engineered an intricate system of channels, cisterns, and dams that captured every precious drop of rainfall. Terracotta pipes, some still visible today, carried water through cliffs and into the city, supplying public fountains, lavish bathhouses, and even rooftop gardens. This wasn't just survival, it was prosperity sculpted from austerity, turning a barren landscape into a thriving metropolis of 30,000 people. The Nabateans didn't just adapt to their environment, they rewrote its rules, proving that civilization could flourish even when nature seemed determined to forbid it. The treasury's facade tells another story, one of cultural fusion. Its Corinthian columns and intricate friezes blend Greek, Egyptian, and Mesopotamian motifs, reflecting Petra's role as a melting pot of trade and ideas. Some scholars believe the structure was actually a royal tomb, its interior chambers hollowed out as a final resting place for Nabatean kings. Yet the name treasury comes from local Bedouin legends, who thought an Egyptian pharaoh had hidden his riches in the urn atop the facade. Bullet marks from their attempts to shatter it still pockmark the stone. This duality, sacred tomb and mythical treasure vault, captures Petra's enduring mystery, but Petra's brilliance couldn't shield it from the tides of empire. After Roman annexation in 106 CE, the city's fortunes shifted. New Roman roads bypassed its trade routes, and as the empire's grip tightened, Nabatean identity began to blur. Temples were rededicated to Roman gods, and the city's distinct rock-cut architecture gave way to more conventional Roman styles. By the time earthquakes crippled its water systems in the 4th century, Petra was already fading, its people scattering, its grandeur slowly reclaimed by the desert. The very empires that once enriched it had, in time, erased its uniqueness. Today, as the setting sun sets the cliffs ablaze in shades of pink and gold, Petra whispers a paradox: the same openness that made it great also made it vulnerable. Its ruins remind us that cultural exchange can be both a lifeline and a slow erasure, that even the most resilient cities are shaped by forces beyond their control. And as shadows stretch across the treasury's weathered facade, you can almost hear the echoes of a question. Will future civilizations remember the Nabateans for what they built, or for what was built over them? Perched above Granada like a crown of stone and starlight, the Alhambra stands as the last and greatest jewel of Islamic Spain, a palace where mathematics met mysticism and every arch whispered verses from the Quran. Built between the 13th and 14th centuries under the Nasrid dynasty, this sprawling complex of palaces, gardens, and fortifications wasn't just a royal residence. It was a living manuscript written in tile, plaster, and water. Step into the Court of the Lions, where 12 marble beasts support a fountain at its center, their mouths channeling water in 4 directions, symbolizing the rivers of paradise described in Islamic tradition. The surrounding arcade, with its 124 slender columns, creates a forest of stone that seems to sway when sunlight filters through its lace-like stucco screens. This wasn't mere decoration, it was theology in 3 dimensions, a physical expression of the Islamic concept of unity in diversity. Every surface of the Alhambra pulses with intricate calligraphy and geometric patterns, but look closer, you won't find a single human figure. In adherence to Islamic aniconism, artisans covered walls with arabesques of interlacing vines and Kufic script quoting poetry and scripture. The famous "Only God is Victorious" inscription repeats thousands of times across the Comer's palace, each repetition slightly altered to create a hypnotic rhythm. These designs weren't arbitrary, they embodied the infinite nature of God through mathematical precision. Stars with 16 points unfolded into smaller stars, tessellating across ceilings like celestial snowflakes, a feat achieved using only compass and straightedge, their proportions based on the golden ratio. Water was the Alhambra's lifeblood and its most potent symbol. Channels carved into marble balustrades fed reflecting pools that doubled the beauty of arched porticos, while hidden aqueducts carried snowmelt from the Sierra Nevada to nourish the Generalife gardens. Here, myrtle hedges framed rose beds, and cypress trees stood sentinel beside trickling fountains, a deliberate echo of the Quran's promise of shaded gardens for the righteous. The Nasrids didn't just build an oasis, they engineered a mirage of Eden, proving that even in an arid land, human ingenuity could summon paradise. Yet the Alhambra's walls also witnessed history's turning tides. In 1492, the same year Columbus sailed west, Catholic monarchs Ferdinand and Isabella seized Granada, ending nearly 8 centuries of Muslim rule in Iberia. Their conquest marked the climax of the Reconquista, but rather than demolishing the palace, they preserved it, adding a Renaissance-style wing and converting its mosque into a chapel. This uneasy synthesis of styles reflects Spain's complex identity, where Christian crosses later overlay Arabic inscriptions and Gothic vaults abut Mucana's domes. The Alhambra became a palimpsest of faiths, its very stones a negotiation between memory and power. Today, as the sunset paints the Sierra Nevada pink, the Alhambra's legacy lingers in the interplay of shadow and light. It challenges the notion that civilizations must clash here: mathematics and art, Islam and Christianity, austerity and opulence found fleeting harmony. When American writer Washington Irving lived in its abandoned halls in the 1820s, he noted how the wind seemed to carry echoes of Moorish lutes through its corridors. Those echoes still resonate, asking us what beauty might flourish when cultures choose to build upon rather than erase what came before. Behind vermilion walls in the heart of Beijing lies a city within a city, a labyrinth of golden roofs and marble terraces where emperors once walked as living gods. The Forbidden City, built between 1406 and 1420 during the Ming Dynasty, wasn't just a palace. It was the physical manifestation of China's celestial mandate, a 980-building complex so meticulously designed that every brick, every gate, and every courtyard whispered the same message: order is power. Its name wasn't hyperbole. For 5 centuries, commoners who stepped beyond its moat faced execution, their very presence considered a violation of cosmic harmony. The genius of its layout lies in its symbolic precision. Aligned perfectly north-south along Beijing's central axis, the complex mirrors the ancient Chinese belief that the emperor, the son of heaven, served as the pivot between earthly and divine realms. Passing through the Meridian Gate, visitors ascend through a series of progressively sacred spaces from the bustling outer court, where officials knelt on marble ramps carved with dragons, to the hushed inner court, where only the imperial family and their most trusted eunuchs tread. Even the numbers held meaning: 9,999 rooms, one shy of the celestial 10,000 reserved for the heavens, and 9 rows of golden door nails, 9 being the imperial number of supremacy. This wasn't just architecture, it was numerology carved in wood and stone. At its core stood the Hall of Supreme Harmony, where emperors received foreign envoys beneath a ceiling adorned with coiled dragons clutching pearls, symbols of imperial wisdom. The throne itself sat atop a 3-tiered platform, elevated so the ruler literally looked down upon his subjects. Yet the Forbidden City's true resilience came from its adaptability. When the Qing dynasty overthrew the Ming in 1644, the new Manchu rulers didn't raise the complex, they reinterpreted it, adding phoenix motifs to balance the Ming dragons and converting palace halls into spaces for their nomadic traditions. The message was clear: dynasties may rise and fall, but the institution of imperial power remained eternal. Beneath this grandeur flowed an invisible network of control. The palace's heating system, hypocausts channeling warm air beneath floors, kept buildings temperate without visible fires that might symbolize instability. Secret passageways allowed spies to monitor officials, while the infamous 9-dragon screen near the emperor's private quarters hid a listening post where eunuchs eavesdropped on courtiers. Even the colors told a story. Yellow roof tiles reserved for the emperor dominated the skyline, while blue tiles in the library symbolized scholarship and green in the prince's quarters hinted at growth. Today, as tourists shuffle across the same stones where emperors once processed, the Forbidden City's legacy endures not just in its physical form, but in the psychological imprint it left on Chinese governance. Its meticulous order, from the strict hierarchy of its courtyards to the unbroken sightlines along its central axis, still echoes in modern China's emphasis on stability and control. The emperors are gone, but their architectural manifesto remains. That power, when perfectly arranged, can outlast even revolution. And as the setting sun gilds those endless golden roofs, one can't help but wonder what other invisible rules still linger in these hallowed halls, waiting to be decoded. Rising from the banks of the Yamuna River like a mirage at dawn, the Taj Mahal isn't just a tomb, it's a love letter carved in moonlight, commissioned in 1632 by Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan after the death of his beloved wife Mumtaz Mahal. This ivory-white marvel represents the pinnacle of grief transformed into art. But beneath its dreamlike beauty lies a paradox. The same hands that shaped its perfect domes also strained under the weight of an empire's fading glory. 20,000 artisans toiled for 22 years, hauling marble from Rajasthan, jade from China, and lapis lazuli from Afghanistan, their labor crystallizing into a monument so precise that its 4 minarets lean slightly outward, a deliberate design to protect the central dome if they ever collapsed. The Taj's genius lies in its harmonious chaos. At first glance, it embodies flawless symmetry, the reflecting pool doubling its grandeur, the identical red sandstone mosques flanking its sides. But look closer and you'll find subtle asymmetries in the floral inlays, each petal adjusted to maintain the illusion of balance from every angle. This wasn't just aesthetics, it was philosophy in stone. The Persian-inspired arches whisper of Shah Jahan's ancestral roots, while the lotus motifs and intricate Petra Dora mosaics scream indigenous Indian craftsmanship. Even the calligraphy framing its gates plays a visual trick. The Quranic verses appear uniformly sized from below thanks to gradually enlarging script, a masterstroke of optical illusion. Yet the Taj's luminous facade conceals a darker legacy. Its construction coincided with famines and rebellions, its cost draining the Mughal treasury. Some historians suggest Shah Jahan's obsession with memorializing love blinded him to his subjects' suffering, a tension mirrored in the site's own duality. The mausoleum's ethereal whiteness contrasts sharply with the black marble counterpart he allegedly planned across the river, a tomb for himself that was never built. Instead, his son Aurangzeb deposed him, confining the aging emperor to Agra Fort, where he spent his final years gazing at his wife's shrine through a diamond-refracted window. Time has only deepened the Taj's mysteries. The changing light transforms its hue throughout the day, pearly pink at dawn, blinding white at noon, molten gold at sunset. Recent studies reveal its foundations are supported by submerged ebony wood, which hardens when wet, explaining how it's withstood floods for centuries. And that famous legend about the amputated hands of its architects, likely a myth, but one that underscores the monument's eerie perfection, so sublime it seemed impossible to replicate. Today, as moonlight bathes its domes and the scent of jasmine floats from its gardens, the Taj Mahal transcends its origins. It's no longer just a Mughal masterpiece. It's a universal symbol of how love and loss can shape stone into soul. And as the river flows silently past, one can't help but wonder, did Shah Jahan build a tomb, or did he unwittingly create something far greater, a mirror for every heart that's ever ached? Rising above Istanbul's skyline like a bridge between worlds, the Hagia Sophia has stood for 15 centuries as a silent witness to the rise and fall of empires. Built in 537 by Byzantine Emperor Justinian, this architectural marvel began as the grandest cathedral in Christendom, its colossal dome stretching 180 feet toward the heavens, a daring engineering feat that seemed to defy gravity itself. The architects Anthemius of Tralles and Isidore of Miletus pioneered a revolutionary system of pendentives, curved triangular supports that distributed the dome's weight across 4 massive piers, creating the illusion of a floating canopy of gold mosaic. When sunlight streamed through its 40 arched windows, the interior shimmered like a divine vision, leading worshippers to whisper that the dome was suspended by a chain from heaven. But the Hagia Sophia's true power lies not just in its physical grandeur, but in its ability to absorb history's seismic shifts. In 1453, when Ottoman Sultan Mehmed II conquered Constantinople, he didn't demolish the cathedral, he transformed it. The crosses were replaced with calligraphic roundels bearing the names of Allah and the caliphs, while minarets rose like sentinels at its corners. Yet the Christian mosaics weren't destroyed. They were plastered over, their golden saints and Madonnas hidden beneath layers of time. This wasn't mere pragmatism. It was a deliberate act of symbolic alchemy, blending 2 faiths into a single sacred space. The Ottomans, awed by the dome's engineering, replicated its design in mosques across their empire, from the Blue Mosque to distant Sarajevo. Step inside today and you'll feel the weight of this layered legacy. The Virgin Mary gazes down from a half-restored mosaic, her eyes meeting Arabic script praising the mercy of God. The mihrab, marking the direction of Mecca, sits slightly off-center, a quiet acknowledgement of the building's original Christian orientation. Even the floor bears scars of history, worn grooves where Byzantine emperors were crowned, subtle depressions from generations of Muslim worshippers' prostrations. This isn't just a building, it's a palimpsest of devotion where every stone tells competing stories of conquest and continuity. Yet the Hagia Sophia's journey didn't end there. In 1935, Mustafa Kemal Atatürk secularized the structure, turning it into a museum that celebrated its dual heritage. For decades, scholars painstakingly uncovered long-hidden mosaics, revealing faces and symbols thought lost forever. Then, in 2020, it reverted to a mosque once more, a decision that sparked global debate about whether such spaces belong to one faith or to shared human history. Through earthquakes, sieges, and ideological battles, the Hagia Sophia endures as a testament to humanity's restless search for meaning. Its dome, repaired and modified over centuries, still crowns the Istanbul skyline, a reminder that the greatest monuments aren't static relics, but living conversations between past and present. As the call to prayer echoes beneath Christ Pantocrator's fading golden gaze, one truth becomes clear. This is where empires don't just collide, they learn to coexist. Beneath the shadow of the Pyramid of the Sun, the silent streets of Teotihuacan stretch toward the horizon like a celestial blueprint frozen in stone. This sprawling metropolis, just 30 miles northeast of modern Mexico City, was once the beating heart of Mesoamerica, a city so grand that the Aztecs, stumbling upon its ruins centuries later, believed it was built by God. At its peak around 450 CE, Teotihuacan housed over 100,000 people, making it one of the largest cities in the world, its influence stretching from the Maya lowlands to the deserts of northern Mexico. Yet despite its glory, the identity of its builders remains one of history's most tantalizing mysteries. No royal tombs, no deciphered inscriptions, just a city so meticulously planned it feels like it was dropped from the heavens. The Pyramid of the Sun dominates the landscape, its 200-foot-tall bulk constructed from over 3 million tons of volcanic stone. But what truly astonishes isn't its size, it's the precision with which it harnesses the cosmos. During the spring and autumn equinoxes, the sun aligns perfectly with the pyramid's western facade, casting a shadow that slithers down the steps like a descending serpent, mirroring the celestial motifs found at Chichen Itza. Nearby, the Pyramid of the Moon mirrors the contours of the sacred Cerro Gordo mountain, anchoring the city's spiritual axis and running straight through the heart of it all. The Avenue of the Dead, a 2.5-mile-long thoroughfare flanked by platforms where priests may have performed rituals under the watchful gaze of carved stone masks. This wasn't just urban design, it was sacred geography, a landscape engineered to mirror the order of the universe. Teotihuacan's brilliance extended far beyond its pyramids. The city was laid out on a grid system so advanced it would take Rome another 400 years to adopt something similar. Multi-family apartment compounds, some with intricate frescoes, others with specialized workshops for obsidian tools or ceremonial pottery, hint at a society with distinct social classes but surprising equality in housing. Unlike the Maya elites who secluded themselves in palace complexes, Teotihuacan's rulers remain invisible, their power expressed through collective monuments rather than individual glorification. The city's murals tell stories without words. Jaguars prowl alongside rain gods, warriors don butterfly insignias, and merchants trade cacao and feathers in markets that once thrummed with a dozen languages. This was a cosmopolitan hub where Zapotec, Maya, and other cultures mingled, bound together by trade and perhaps a shared spiritual vision. Then, around 750 CE, the unthinkable happened. Fires gutted the street of the dead's temples, statues were smashed, and the city emptied. No invading army left behind weapons, no mass graves pointed to plague. Some archaeologists suspect an uprising against the ruling class. Others blame climate change disrupting agriculture. What's certain is that Teotihuacan's collapse was as swift as its rise, a reminder that even the most meticulously planned societies hang by a thread. By the time the Aztecs rediscovered the ruins, they could only wonder at the hands that had built such grandeur, hands that left no names, only stones whispering of a civilization that once reached for the stars. Today, as the morning mist curls around the pyramids, Teotihuacan's greatest lesson lingers in the silence. That greatness is no guarantee of permanence, and that sometimes the most enduring mysteries are those stripped of their storytellers. Rising from the savannah like a fortress of whispers, the stone ruins of Great Zimbabwe shatter every stereotype about Africa's medieval past. This sprawling city, built between the 11th and 15th centuries, wasn't just a settlement, it was the epicenter of a sophisticated trading empire that stretched from the Swahili coast to the courts of China. Its most iconic feature, towering dry stone walls, some reaching 30 feet high, assembled without a drop of mortar. Each granite block was painstakingly shaped to fit snugly against its neighbor, a technique so precise that these structures have withstood 8 centuries of wind and rain. The Great Enclosure, a labyrinth of curved walls and narrow passageways, still baffles archaeologists. Was it a royal palace, a ceremonial space, or a vast granary securing the kingdom's wealth? The answer may lie in the very materials used. These stones weren't just functional, they were status symbols, their tight seams demonstrating the ruler's ability to command skilled labor on a monumental scale. What makes Great Zimbabwe revolutionary isn't just its architecture, but what it traded. Beneath its soil, archaeologists have unearthed Persian glass, Chinese celadon pottery, and Arabian coins, artifacts that sketch a map of medieval globalization long before European ships rounded the Cape of Good Hope. The city sat at the crossroads of the Indian Ocean trade network, funneling gold from inland mines to Swahili merchants who shipped it to India and beyond. Ivory, rhino horn, and exotic animal skins flowed through its markets, while its own artisans crafted intricate soapstone birds, their hybrid eagle-human forms hinting at spiritual beliefs lost to time. This was no isolated kingdom. It was a cosmopolitan hub where African traders negotiated as equals with foreign merchants, their deals sealed with handshakes rather than colonial coercion. Yet the greatest mystery of Great Zimbabwe isn't how it thrived, but why it fell. By the mid-15th century, the city was abandoned, its palaces empty, its trade routes silent. Some theories point to environmental collapse, overgrazing and deforestation exhausting the land. Others suggest political upheaval or the gold trade shifting north. European colonizers, unwilling to believe Africans could create such grandeur, spun fantastical tales of Phoenician or biblical origins. It wasn't until the 1950s that radiocarbon dating confirmed the truth. This was unequivocally an African achievement, built by ancestors of the Shona people. Today, as the setting sun paints the stone walls gold, Great Zimbabwe stands as both a monument and a reckoning. Its ruins force us to confront the gaps in our historical narratives. How many other African civilizations have been overlooked or misattributed? The soapstone birds that once crowned its towers, now emblems of modern Zimbabwe, seem to gaze across the centuries, reminding us that greatness wears many faces and that stone can speak louder than prejudice. Nestled among the volcanic peaks of Java, Borobudur rises like a meditation frozen in stone, a mountain of wisdom carved by human hands. Built in the 9th century by the Sailendra dynasty, this colossal stupa isn't just the world's largest Buddhist monument. It's a three-dimensional guidebook to enlightenment, its very architecture mirroring the spiritual journey from earthly bondage to nirvana. Imagine climbing its 9 stacked terraces, each step a metaphorical ascent, the square lower levels adorned with 2,672 relief panels illustrating the Buddha's previous lives and teachings, the circular upper platforms lined with 72 perforated stupas, each cradling a serene stone Buddha within. At the summit, a massive central dome stands empty, a silent testament to the ultimate goal of letting go. Borobudur's design hides a profound secret beneath its base. Early excavations revealed a hidden layer of reliefs depicting scenes of desire and suffering, lust, greed, violence, all deliberately buried under stone. This wasn't shoddy construction, it was a masterstroke of symbolism. Just as Buddhist practice teaches followers to overcome earthly attachments, the monument's architects literally submerged worldly temptations beneath the path to transcendence. The entire structure functions as a mandala, a cosmic diagram meant to be walked clockwise, with pilgrims absorbing its stories like turning pages of a sacred text. The reliefs themselves are a marvel of narrative art, showing everything from marketplace haggling to celestial palaces, all carved with such precision that scholars believe they once served as visual aids for monks teaching Dharma to illiterate devotees. The monument's rediscovery in 1814 reads like a parable itself. For centuries, Borobudur lay smothered under volcanic ash and jungle growth, its existence fading into local legend until Sir Stamford Raffles, the British ruler of Java, ordered its excavation. As workers peeled back layers of earth, they uncovered not just a ruin, but a perfectly preserved time capsule of Mahayana Buddhism's golden age in Southeast Asia. The volcanic eruptions that buried it may have been catastrophic, but they also shielded its carvings from erosion and looting, much like the Buddhist concept of samsara, where destruction and rebirth are part of an endless cycle. Today, as dawn mist swirls around its bell-shaped stupas, Borobudur still whispers its ancient lessons. Modern pilgrims meditate in its niches at sunrise, watching as the first light illuminates the Buddha's stone smile through diamond-shaped perforations. Archaeologists using ground-penetrating radar continue to uncover hidden chambers, while conservators battle the corrosive effects of tropical rains and tourist footsteps. The monument's survival against earthquakes, eruptions, and even terrorist bombings echoes the resilience of the philosophy it enshrines. That wisdom, once carved into the world, can endure even when buried or forgotten. And as the last rays of sunlight gild its uppermost dome, one truth becomes clear. Some journeys can't be rushed, whether up a stone staircase or toward enlightenment itself. Carved into the rust-colored cliffs where the Minjong, Dodu, and Kingi rivers collide, the Leshan giant Buddha sits with such quiet authority that even the waters seem to hush in its presence. At 233 feet tall, his shoulders wider than a basketball court, his toenails large enough to seat 3 people, this monumental statue isn't just the largest pre-modern Buddha in the world. It's a feat of engineering, faith, and ecological ingenuity rolled into one serene gaze. The story begins in the early 8th century, when a monk named Haitong grew weary of watching ships vanish beneath the treacherous currents where the rivers met. Legend claims he gouged out his own eyes to prove his devotion to the project, though historians suspect this gruesome tale was embellished to mirror Buddhist tales of self-sacrifice. What's certain is that the statue's 90-year construction, completed in 803 CE, became a Tang dynasty pilgrimage of perseverance, funded by donations from silk merchants and farmers alike. The Buddha's design is as pragmatic as it is spiritual. His coiled hair doubles as a drainage system, channeling rainwater through hidden pipes to prevent erosion. His massive hands rest on his knees, fingers splayed in a gesture of calm assurance, while his downturned eyes seem to follow travelers navigating the rapids below. But the real stroke of genius lies beneath the surface, literally. Stonemasons carved excess rock from the statue's body and strategically deposited it into the river, altering the water flow to create safer passage for ships. This wasn't just art, it was an act of hydroengineering disguised as devotion, where sacred sculpture and public works merged seamlessly. Time, however, has a way of humbling even the mightiest monuments. 9 centuries of wind, rain, and pollution have softened the Buddha's features, his once crisp robes now rippling like actual fabric worn thin. The same humidity that gives the cliffs their lush emerald moss also seeps into the sandstone, threatening the statue's stability. Restoration efforts walk a delicate line. How do you preserve a monument that preaches the beauty of impermanence? The irony isn't lost on modern conservators, who reinforce his crevices with fiberglass rods while leaving visible patches of weathering, as if to honor the Buddha's own teachings on transience. Today, as visitors descend the steep stairway beside his ear, carved wide enough to hear the prayers of the world, the giant Buddha offers more than a photo op. He's a silent teacher, his eroded face a reminder that even stone surrenders to time, and his tranquil presence a testament to how human hands, guided by conviction, can shape both rock and destiny. As the river swirls peacefully at his feet, it's hard not to feel the weight of his quiet lesson. That true permanence lies not in resisting change, but in embracing it with grace. Standing sentinel on the north bank of the Thames, the Tower of London's stark white walls have witnessed the full spectrum of human drama, from coronations to beheadings, from royal births to whispered conspiracies. Built by William the Conqueror in 1066 as both a fortress and a symbol of Norman dominance, this sprawling complex of 21 towers isn't just a castle. It's a stone archive of England's soul, where glittering crowns and blood-stained scaffolds tell equally compelling chapters of the same story. Step through Traitor's Gate, where barges once delivered prisoners like Anne Boleyn and Sir Thomas More, and you can almost hear the river's current murmur secrets from the past. At first glance, the tower seems a paradox. Its jewel house safeguards the crown jewel's 23,578 gemstones, including the 530-carat Cullinan-eyed diamond in the sovereign's scepter, a dazzling testament to the monarchy's enduring spectacle. Yet just footsteps away, the scaffold site on Tower Green marks where 3 queens met the executioner's blade, their final moments playing out before select audiences rather than the raucous crowds at public executions outside the walls. This duality cuts to the tower's core. It was never just about power or punishment, but about controlling the narrative of both. When Henry Roman VIII ordered Anne Boleyn's execution in 1536, he imported a French swordsman for a cleaner striker, a macabre act of mercy that also ensured her death wouldn't become a messy spectacle for martyrdom. The tower's darkest mysteries cling to its stones like shadows. In 1483, the disappearance of 12-year-old Edward V and his younger brother, the infamous princes in the tower, transformed the Bloody Tower from a royal apartment into a byword for regicidal horror. Were they smothered by their Uncle Richard Roman III agents, as Shakespeare dramatized, or did they vanish under other circumstances, their fate buried beneath layers of Tudor propaganda? The truth remains as elusive as the ravens that patrol the battlements, their clipped wings a nod to the legend that the kingdom falls if they ever leave. Yet for all its grim reputation, the tower also birthed institutions that shaped modern Britain. The Royal Mint operated within its walls for 5 centuries, hammering coins under armed guard to prevent theft. The crown jewels themselves became a propaganda tool after the monarchy's restoration in 1660. Their lavish display meant to erase memories of Cromwell's austere republic. Even the yeoman warders, or beefeaters, evolved from royal bodyguards into living historians, their ceremonial uniforms masking the tower's transition from active fortress to heritage site. Today, as tourists queue to glimpse the Koh-i-Noor diamond or pose with armored guards, the tower's true power lies in its unresolved tensions. It's a place where the weight of history isn't neatly packaged, but lingers in the chill of the Beauchamp Tower's graffiti-scratched cells and the quiet of the Chapel Royal, where executed prisoners like Lady Jane Grey were quietly interred beneath the floor. The stones remember every contradiction, the terror and the pageantry, the justice and the brutality, offering no easy morals, just an unflinching mirror to the costs of ambition and the fragile nature of power. As the evening sun sets the White Tower's walls ablaze in golden light, one thing becomes clear: this fortress doesn't just hold England's past, it interrogates it. High above the marble floors of the Vatican, Michelangelo's brushstrokes transformed a chapel ceiling into the most intimate conversation between humanity and the divine. The Sistine Chapel, painted between 15 and 1215 at the furious insistence of Pope Julius II, isn't just a masterpiece, it's a revolution rendered in pigment. Imagine the artist himself lying on his back for 4 years on a wooden scaffold, his neck permanently cricked, paint dripping into his eyes as he conjured 300 figures across 12,000 square feet of plaster. The result, not mere decoration, but a theological thunderbolt that shattered medieval artistic conventions and redefined what it meant to be human in God's image. At the chapel's heart pulses the creation of Adam, where the fingers of the first man and his creator hover just centimeters apart, an electric gap charged with more meaning than any touch could contain. Michelangelo's genius lies in that suspended moment, the languid Adam, his form echoing the contours of the earth beneath him, meets a dynamic, white-haired god surging forward in a swirl of drapery and angelic beings. Their nearly connected hands don't just depict creation, they visualize the Renaissance itself, that explosive era when humanity reached toward the divine while planting both feet firmly on earthly soil. Notice how God's index finger is taut with energy while Adam's droops slightly, as if the spark of life hasn't quite jumped the gap. This isn't a Sunday school illustration. It's a meditation on potential, on the instant before inspiration strikes. But the ceiling's power extends far beyond this iconic panel. Michelangelo smuggled pagan symbolism into sacred space. The ignudi, those muscular nude youths framing the biblical scenes, wouldn't look out of place on a Greek vase. The Libyan Sibyl twists with impossible grace, her anatomy defying naturalism to achieve something more profound, a study of human intellect in motion. Even the grotesque scenes, like the drunken Noah, show biblical heroes as flawed beings, a radical departure from the untouchable saints of medieval art. The artist didn't just paint stories, he staged them, using foreshortening and perspective to make the vaults disappear, as if heaven had cracked open above the Pope's head. The chapel's legacy is as layered as its plaster. While Julius intended it as a weapon in his power struggles, a visual manifesto of papal authority, Michelangelo infused it with subversive humanity. The prophets and sibyls along the edges aren't serene icons but complex individuals. Jeremiah slumps in existential despair, Ezekiel's body coils like a spring about to release. This tension between institutional pomp and psychological depth mirrors the Renaissance itself, where the church's grandeur coexisted with burgeoning individualism. Today, as 5 million visitors crane their necks annually, the Sistine Chapel still whispers its dual revelation, that divinity lives in human form, and that great art isn't just seen but felt in the marrow. The cracks from a 17th century explosion, the soot from centuries of candles, even the controversial modern restoration that brightened the colors beyond Michelangelo's intent. All these layers remind us that masterpieces, like faith, are never frozen in time. They breathe, they change, and most of all, they keep asking the same question first posed by those outstretched fingers. What happens when heaven and earth almost touch? Rising from the waters of New York Harbor like a luminous promise, the Statue of Liberty isn't just a monument. It's a living dialogue between two nations and the millions who have sought refuge in her shadow. A gift from France to America in 1886, this 305-foot copper colossus was conceived as more than metal and mortar. Sculptor Frédéric Auguste Bartholdi molded her face after his mother, but her soul was forged in the fires of abolition and revolution. Few notice the broken chains half hidden beneath her robe's folds, trampled beneath her sandaled foot, a deliberate tribute to the end of slavery, added at the insistence of abolitionist Édouard René de La Boulaye. This subtle detail transforms her from a generic symbol of freedom into a pointed critique of oppression, a reminder that liberty must always confront its own contradictions. The statue's engineering is as revolutionary as its message. Gustave Eiffel, years before his iconic tower, designed her iron skeleton, allowing the thin copper skin to sway slightly in high winds, an innovation that lets her endure storms both meteorological and political. Her torch, originally gold-leafed to catch the sun, was rebuilt multiple times, each iteration refining how light refracts through its glass panes. That light wasn't merely decorative, it served as a literal beacon for ships navigating treacherous waters, guiding not just vessels but the hopes of 12 million immigrants who passed Ellis Island between 1892 and 1954. For them, Lady Liberty's upraised arm wasn't just a gesture, it was the first welcome from a nation built by outsiders, yet her meaning has never been static. During World War I, her torch became a recruitment tool for soldiers. In the Cold War, a propaganda counter to Soviet tyranny. The 1986 restoration added a new flame covered in 24-karat gold, reflecting sunlight by day and illuminated by lasers at night, a technological upgrade that mirrored America's evolving self-image. After 9/11, she stood shrouded in grief, then became a rallying point for unity. Even her green patina tells a story. The copper's natural oxidation acts as a protective layer, ensuring she weathers centuries while changing hue, much like the nation she represents, constantly transforming yet fundamentally enduring. Today, as ferries circle her island and visitors climb the 354 steps to her crown, the statue's power lies in her unfinished conversation. Protesters invoke her image at rallies for civil rights, while debates over immigration policy unfold in her sightline. The original tablet in her left hand, inscribed with the date of the Declaration of Independence in Roman numerals, now speaks not just to 18th century revolutionaries but to 21st century dreamers. She isn't a relic of the past but a mirror held up to the present, asking who gets to claim freedom's promise and who still waits in the shadows for her light to reach them. As sunset gilds her torch, casting reflections across the harbor, one truth becomes clear. Liberty isn't a fixed point, but a direction we keep walking toward, one generation after another. At first, Parisians recoiled from the skeletal iron beast rising on their skyline, a 300-meter-tall lattice of rivets and angles that seemed to scoff at every classical ideal of beauty. When Gustave Eiffel unveiled his tower for the 1889 World's Fair, critics called it a tragic street lamp and a giraffe skeleton, with novelist Guy de Maupassant famously dining at its restaurant just to avoid seeing its silhouette. Yet this monstrosity would become the very symbol of Paris itself, proving that genius often wears unexpected forms. What began as a temporary exhibition piece built to showcase French industrial might defied all odds, its intricate ironwork rewriting the rules of what architecture could be. The tower's audacity lies in its bones. Eiffel's team assembled 18,038 precisely fitted iron pieces using 2.5 million rivets, a feat requiring mathematical precision that foreshadowed modern computer modeling. Its curved legs weren't just aesthetic, they distributed wind resistance so effectively that the tower sways a mere 5 inches in storms. The elevators, designed by a then-unknown engineer named Leon Edu, were marvels themselves, hydraulic pistons climbing the structure's sloping rails, a system so innovative it became a blueprint for skyscrapers yet unbuilt. This wasn't merely a tower, it was a masterclass in turning skepticism into spectacle, yet the Eiffel Tower's survival hinged on an 11th-hour reinvention. Originally slated for dismantling after 20 years, it found redemption through radio waves. In 1909, Eiffel installed a wireless telegraph antenna at its peak, transforming the structure into a critical communications hub. During World War I, it intercepted enemy transmissions and jammed German radio signals, proving its strategic worth. Later, its height made it indispensable for broadcasting, relaying everything from Charles Lindbergh's flight announcements to the first European television signals. The very feature that once made it useless, soaring above the city's rooftops, became its salvation. Today, the tower's glow against the Parisian night disguises its deeper irony. The structure that once symbolized industrial coldness now radiates warmth, its 20,000 golden lights twinkling hourly like champagne bubbles. The same lattice that seemed so jarring in the age of stone now feels delicate as lace, its transparency offering panoramic views no solid monument could match. Even the paint applied in 3 subtly different shades to enhance its silhouette shows how Eiffel outmaneuvered his critics not through argument, but through sheer inevitability. 7 million visitors ascend annually not to admire a relic, but to stand inside a living lesson, that beauty isn't static and that the future often arrives dressed as heresy. Rising from Benelong Point like a fleet of stone sails catching an eternal wind, the Sydney Opera House defies the very idea of what a building should be. When Danish architect Bjørn Utzon sketched his vision in 1957, jurors for the International Design Competition were stunned. Here was a structure that seemed sculpted by ocean breezes rather than drawn with a ruler, its soaring white shells echoing the geometry of peeled orange segments. No straight lines, no right angles, just pure organic poetry in concrete. But turning this vision into reality would become one of the most dramatic sagas in architectural history. A 14-year odyssey of technical nightmares, political feuds, and Utzon's heartbreaking resignation before completion. The engineering challenges were unprecedented. Those iconic shells weren't just aesthetic whims, each one required complex mathematical calculations to form perfect segments of a sphere, allowing the pre-cast concrete ribs to be reused across the entire structure. Early attempts collapsed under their own weight until engineers devised a radical solution: assemble the ribs like bicycle spokes radiating from an imaginary point in the sky. The ceramic tiles cladding the shells, over 1 million glossy white and matte cream pieces, had to withstand salt spray while appearing seamless from afar, a puzzle solved by inventing a new glazing technique. Even the podium's foundations became a crisis when construction began before proper soil tests, forcing workers to blast through unexpected bedrock with underwater explosives. Yet the Opera House's true brilliance lies beyond its silhouette. Inside, the concert hall's acoustics are a masterclass in sonic alchemy. The ceilings suspended acrylic rings dubbed donuts diffuse sound waves with scientific precision, while the white birch plywood walls absorb and reflect in perfect balance. Utzon, who never got to see the interior completed, envisioned performances where architecture and music became inseparable. His vision holds when the Sydney Symphony plays. Musicians report hearing nuances in their own instruments they've never detected elsewhere. The building's tortured birth mirrors Australia's own cultural growing pains. Budgets ballooned from $7 million to $102 million, sparking public outrage. Utzon, pressured by a hostile new government, abandoned the project in 1966, leaving local architects to interpret his unfinished plans. For decades, his name was erased from official accounts until a 1999 reconciliation saw him redesign the interiors he'd been barred from completing. This bittersweet resolution mirrors how societies often resist their most visionary minds, only to embrace them belatedly. Today, as sunset turns the shells apricot then lavender against the harbor, the Opera House transcends its rocky origins. It's not just a venue but a living metaphor for artistic risk, for the friction between pragmatism and genius, and ultimately, for the idea that beauty worth fighting for endures. When UNESCO declared it a World Heritage Site in 2007, they noted it was one of the rare contemporary buildings to earn this honor, proving that some dreams, no matter how improbable, eventually earn their place in history. And as ferries glide past its illuminated curves, the message ripples outward. Great art isn't always born smoothly, but the struggle becomes part of its soul. Piercing the clouds at 2,717 feet, the Burj Khalifa doesn't just scrape the sky, it redefines it. This shimmering needle of glass and steel, unveiled in 2010, is more than Dubai's crowning jewel. It's a manifesto in mirrored windows, a declaration that the age of awe-inspiring monuments didn't end with the pyramids. But what makes it extraordinary isn't just its record-shattering height. It's how it roots futuristic ambition in ancient wisdom. The tower's triple-lobed footprint, inspired by the desert hymenocallis flower, also subtly echoes the geometric patterns of Islamic architecture, its setbacks creating a spiraling silhouette that recalls minarets of centuries past. This is globalization with a soul, where Bedouin traditions whisper through the hum of high-speed elevators. Engineering the Burj Khalifa required rewriting the rules of physics itself. To combat the desert winds that could topple lesser structures, architects modeled the tower after a resilient stalk of desert grass, its Y-shaped base dispersing stress like roots gripping sand. The exterior's 26,000 glass panels aren't just for show. They're a high-tech skin that reflects the punishing Arabian sun while withstanding sandstorms. Even the concrete had to evolve. Engineers pumped the mix with ice to prevent setting in Dubai's furnace-like heat, pouring it only at night when temperatures dipped slightly. This wasn't construction, it was alchemy turning impossibility into routine. Yet the Burj's true innovation lies hidden in its footprint. The tower's cooling system uses condensation from its air conditioning, enough to fill 20 Olympic pools annually, to irrigate the surrounding parks and fountains. Solar panels heat water for its 1,044 residences, while high-speed elevators recapture energy like hybrid cars. In a region synonymous with excess, the world's tallest building quietly pioneers sustainability, proving that megastructures needn't sacrifice the planet for prestige. The view from its observation deck on the 148th floor offers more than vertigo. It frames humanity's paradoxical relationship with progress. To the west, the artificial archipelago of Palm Jumeirah sprawls like a sci-fi fever dream. To the east, the dunes of the empty quarter stretch toward infinity. The Burj straddles these worlds, a beacon of what's possible when ambition marries heritage. At sunset, when its spire glows like a lighthouse for the 21st century, the tower poses a silent question. Are we building towers to touch the heavens, or to remind ourselves that the earth is still our home? Soaring above Rio de Janeiro's chaotic beauty, Cristo Redentor extends its arms in an embrace that transcends stone and steel. Perched atop the 2,300-foot Corcovado mountain, this 98-foot Art Deco marvel isn't just a statue. It's a silent mediator between Rio's glittering beaches and sprawling favelas, between rainforest and concrete, between faith and modernity. When French sculptor Paul Landowski first sketched its streamlined silhouette in the 1920s, he envisioned more than a religious icon. He crafted a visual hymn to resilience, its open-armed posture mirroring both Christ's crucifixion and Brazil's own history of absorbing contradictions. The engineering behind this monument is as extraordinary as its symbolism. Clad in 6 million triangular soapstone tiles, each no thicker than a notebook, the statue's surface shimmers like fish scales, weathering Atlantic storms with surprising grace. Soapstone, chosen for its resistance to expansion and contraction, keeps the structure intact despite Rio's wild temperature swings. Inside, a network of reinforced concrete ribs flexes during tropical storms, while the crown of lightning rods embedded in Christ's head and shoulders channels electrical strikes harmlessly into the mountain below. This isn't just art, it's a masterclass in designing for harmony with nature, where every material was selected not just for beauty but for dialogue with the elements. Construction itself became an act of faith. Workers hauled materials up the mountain's steep slopes using a miniature railway, assembling the statue piece by piece without modern cranes or computers. The face, sculpted separately in Paris and shipped to Brazil, was hoisted into place in 1931, a moment so charged with emotion that witnesses reported spontaneous hymns breaking out among the builders. The project united atheist engineers, Catholic laborers, and Afro-Brazilian spiritualists, all drawn by something deeper than religion, the shared dream of creating a beacon for their fractured city. Today, as sunlight dances across the soapstone tiles at dawn, Cristo Redentor's true power emerges. From its vantage point, Rio's contrasts unfold like a living map. the yacht dotted Guanabara Bay alongside hillside communities where laundry flutters like prayer flags. The statue doesn't judge these disparities, it spans them, its outstretched arms refusing to choose between wealth and poverty, between wilderness and urban sprawl. At night, when spotlights illuminate its form against the Inkai sky, the effect is startling. Christ seems to hover above the mountain, a weightless reminder that grace isn't found in perfection, but in the courage to stand where storms rage hardest. Unlike Europe's medieval cathedrals or Asia's ancient temples, this 20th century marvel carries no scars of war or colonial conquest. Its scars are subtler, the weathering of salt air, the micro fissures from decades of wind, and therein lies its lesson. True resilience isn't about dominating a landscape, but learning to sway with it. As helicopters buzz around its shoulders and pilgrims climb the 700 steps to its base, the statue remains what it always was, a silent witness to the messy, magnificent business of being human, offering shelter without demanding uniformity. And in a world increasingly fractured by divisions, that open-armed stance feels less like a pose and more like an invitation, or perhaps a challenge. Perched above Athens like a weathered crown, the Acropolis is more than a cluster of ancient ruins. It's the physical embodiment of democracy's turbulent birth. While the Parthenon rightfully steals the spotlight, its neighboring structures whisper equally compelling stories of triumph, tragedy, and the unyielding spirit of a civilization that refused to be erased. Take the Erechtheion, its porch of the Caryatids standing as one of architecture's most ingenious solutions. 6 graceful maidens carved from Pentelic marble balance the roof on their heads, their draped forms masking structural supports with poetic elegance. But these aren't just decorative columns, they're a defiant response to the Persian sack of Athens in 480 BCE. When the invaders reduced the Acropolis to smoldering rubble, the Greeks didn't merely rebuild, they reimagined, transforming trauma into art that celebrated resilience over revenge. Just a stone's throw away, the Temple of Athena Nike perches precariously on the citadel's edge, its slender Ionic columns framing sweeping views of the Saronic Gulf. Dedicated to the goddess of victory, this tiny temple commemorates the Battle of Salamis, where outnumbered Greek triremes outmaneuvered Persia's massive fleet. The frieze inside once depicted this very battle, a reminder that victory often belongs not to the strongest, but to the most cunning. Yet the temple's most revolutionary feature is almost invisible: the subtle curvature of its platform, designed to correct optical illusions so the structure would appear perfectly level from below. This wasn't vanity, it was democracy in stone, ensuring every citizen, whether standing in the agora or climbing the sacred way, would perceive equal perfection. The Acropolis's layers reveal Greece's cyclical dance with destruction and rebirth. Ottoman occupiers turned the Parthenon into a mosque, Venetians bombed it during sieges, and 19th century archaeologists controversially removed sculptures to European museums. Yet through every violation, the hilltop endured as a living classroom. Philosophers like Socrates likely walked these paths, debating ethics where earlier myths claimed Poseidon's trident struck the rock, leaving a saltwater spring still visible in the Erechtheion's foundations. The juxtaposition is striking: rational discourse unfolding beside ancient miracles, a metaphor for how Greek thought married logic and legend to shape Western civilization. Modern restorations continue this dialogue across millennia. Laser scans now guide the painstaking reassembly of toppled columns, each drum fitted with titanium rods to withstand earthquakes. But the real magic lies in what hasn't changed: the way golden dawn light still gilds the Parthenon's columns as it did for Pericles, or how the same sea breeze that filled Athenian sails at Salamis still rustles through olive trees on the slopes. The Acropolis doesn't just belong to Greece, It's a mirror held up to every society that values free thought over dogma, proving that some ideals, no matter how battered, refuse to crumble. The Leaning Tower of Pisa never intended to become architecture's most famous mistake. When construction began in 1173, its designers envisioned a perfectly vertical bell tower to accompany the cathedral in Piazza dei Miracoli, a symbol of Pisa's maritime wealth and civic pride. But just 5 years into the project, as workers completed the third story, the unthinkable happened. The tower began to sink. Beneath its foundation lay unstable subsoil, a treacherous mix of soft clay, sand, and groundwater that couldn't support the weight of its 14,000-ton marble bulk. What should have been a catastrophic failure instead birthed an icon, proving that sometimes greatness emerges not in spite of flaws, but because of them. For centuries, engineers wrestled with the tower's tilt, watching helplessly as it leaned further each year, sometimes by as much as 1.5 inches annually. By 1990, the angle had reached 5.5 degrees, putting the structure on the brink of collapse. The solution wasn't to straighten the tower, but to preserve its precarious beauty while halting its deadly drift. Teams drilled diagonally beneath the foundation, carefully removing soil from the high side, allowing the tower to settle back slightly. They anchored it with 600 tons of lead counterweights and suspended it with steel cables during the delicate operation. The result, a miraculous stabilization that reduced the lean by 17 inches, just enough to save it without robbing Pisa of its beloved imperfection. What's often overlooked is how the tower's tilt shaped its identity. The very instability that threatened it also softened its austerity, giving the cylindrical campanile a sense of motion, as if caught mid-bow. The 8 stories of arched colonnades, originally intended to showcase classical harmony, now create a playful optical illusion. From certain angles, the tower appears to spiral like a corkscrew. Even the bells, silenced for decades due to fears their vibrations might topple the structure, were carefully rehung in 21 with dampers to absorb movement. This isn't just preservation, it's a masterclass in embracing accidents as destiny. The tower's survival mirrors humanity's own uneven journey. Like Pisa's engineers, we're constantly recalibrating, adding counterweights to our imbalances, reinforcing weak foundations, learning that perfection isn't the only path to endurance. Tourists flock not to see a flawless tower, but one that defiantly stands despite its wobble, its very tilt a testament to adaptability. As the morning sun casts its shadow across the piazza, that famous lean doesn't whisper of failure. It declares with quiet triumph that sometimes the things that threaten to break us instead become our most unforgettable features. Behind the Kremlin's crimson walls, history doesn't simply unfold. It collides, twists, and reinvents itself. This triangular fortress along the Moskva River isn't just a cluster of palaces and cathedrals. It's Russia's perpetual chessboard, where tsars and commissars, patriarchs and presidents have made moves that reshaped continents. The very name Kremlin means fortress inside a city, but this is no ordinary citadel. It's the stage where Byzantine splendor meets Cold War intrigue, where golden onion domes cast shadows over nuclear command centers. Ivan the Terrible paced these courtyards dreaming of empire. Napoleon watched Moscow burn from its towers, and Lenin's body was embalmed just steps away from medieval icons whispering of resurrection. The Cathedral Square complex reveals the Kremlin's spiritual heartbeat. Here, the Assumption Cathedral's frescoed arches witnessed every Tsar's coronation, its limestone walls absorbing centuries of chanted liturgies and whispered conspiracies. Next door, the Archangel Michael Cathedral cradles the sarcophagi of Muscovite rulers, while the Ivan the Great bell tower, once the tallest structure in Russia, stands as a silent rebuke to the failed ambitions beneath it. That colossal Tsar bell lying at its base, cracked during casting and never rung, becomes an uncanny metaphor for Russian history itself, magnificent, flawed, and eternally waiting to fulfill its potential. Yet beneath this sacred skyline thrums the machinery of modern power. The yellow Senate building, designed by Catherine the Great's favorite architect, now houses the presidential administration. Behind its neoclassical facade, decisions ripple outward: annexations, elections, cyber campaigns, while the Kremlin's 20 towers stand guard like silent sentinels. The Spasskaya Tower's famous clock ticks off not just hours but eras. Its chimes marked Stalin's purges, Gagarin's spaceflight, and the Soviet Union's midnight collapse. Even the stars topping these towers tell a story, replacing the Imperial double-headed eagles in 1937 as communist symbols. They were gilded with so much gold that they withstand missile attacks, a durability ideology never achieved. The Kremlin's greatest power lies in its duality. It's both museum and military command center, tourist attraction and restricted zone. Visitors gawk at the diamond fund's jewels while submarines receive launch codes deep below. This juxtaposition mirrors Russia itself, a nation forever suspended between East and West, between autocracy and aspiration. As the setting sun sets the ruby stars ablaze, one truth becomes clear. These walls don't just protect power, they compress time, making tsars and general secretaries feel like contemporaries in an endless Russian drama where the backdrop never changes, only the players do. Perched atop a rugged Bavarian hill like a scene torn from a storybook, Neuschwanstein Castle isn't just architecture, it's pure escapism crystallized in stone. King Ludwig II of Bavaria, a man who preferred Wagnerian operas to royal duties, commissioned this fantasy fortress in 1869, envisioning a retreat where he could lose himself in medieval legends and romantic ideals. With its sky-piercing turrets, frescoed halls depicting Tristan and Isolde, and a throne room that deliberately lacks a throne, left unfinished because Ludwig saw himself as a moon king, ruling over dreams rather than subjects, the castle feels less like a residence and more like a stage set for a life unlived. Every inch of its gilded interiors whispers of a monarch who longed to dissolve into myth, even as his real-world reign crumbled under financial ruin and political isolation. What makes Neuschwanstein so mesmerizing isn't just its whimsy, but its contradictions. Ludwig, dubbed the fairy tale king, poured Bavaria's treasury into its construction while his people groaned under taxes, insisting the castle was a private project despite its staggering cost. The throne room's Byzantine mosaics shimmer with gold leaf, yet the space was never used for state affairs, only solitary musings. The artificial cave next to his bedroom, complete with a faux stalactite ceiling and a hidden waterfall, reveals a ruler who preferred manufactured magic to the messy realities of 19th century governance. Even the castle's name, meaning New Swan Stone, nods to Wagner's opera Lohengrin, where a knight arrives in a boat pulled by swans, a metaphor for Ludwig's own retreat into artifice. Yet Neuschwanstein's legacy transcends its troubled origins. When Walt Disney first glimpsed its silhouette during a European tour, he saw more than a castle. He saw the blueprint for a new kind of storytelling. The spires that once housed Ludwig's loneliness became the archetype for Sleeping Beauty's castle, their exaggerated peaks and pastel hues distilling the very essence of fairy tale wonder. Today, as millions of visitors cross its drawbridge, most overlook the irony. A monument to escapism, built by a king bankrupted by his own dreams, now fuels the fantasies of countless others. Beneath the glittering surfaces, though, the castle guards darker whispers. Ludwig's obsession with isolation led him to design secret passageways and hidden staircases, allowing him to dine alone while servants delivered meals unseen. His eventual deposition for madness, a diagnosis historians now question, and mysterious death in shallow lake waters add a Gothic twist to the tale. The castle itself was only a third complete at his passing. Its unfinished halls a metaphor for a life interrupted by forces he couldn't outrun. Standing on Marienbrück, the bridge that spans a vertigo-inducing gorge behind the castle, the view captures Neuschwanstein's duality. From one angle, it's the epitome of romantic grandeur, its white limestone glowing against alpine forests. From another, it's a poignant folly, a king's desperate attempt to build a world where he could belong. The castle endures not just as a tourist magnet or Disney's muse, but as a haunting reminder that dreams, no matter how dazzling, are never free. And perhaps that's why its silhouette still captivates, because in those towering spires, we see our own yearning to trade the ordinary for the extraordinary, if only for a moment. Crowning Jerusalem's skyline with its golden dome, the Dome of the Rock isn't just a shrine. It's a vortex where earth and heaven collide. Built in 691 by the Umayyad Caliph Abd al-Malik, this octagonal masterpiece marks the spot where Muslims believe the Prophet Muhammad ascended to heaven during the night journey, and where Jews revere the foundation stone of Solomon's temple. But step inside and you'll find something startling. Not a single human figure adorns its walls. Instead, over 6,000 square feet of shimmering mosaics unfold in intricate arabesques and Quranic calligraphy, their swirling vines and geometric patterns a visual declaration that the divine transcends mortal form. This was Islamic art's first great manifesto, a deliberate break from Byzantine figural traditions, where geometry became theology in tile and glass. The building's architecture whispers of cultural synthesis. Its gilded dome, rebuilt countless times after earthquakes, mirrors Constantinople's Hagia Sophia, a nod to the empire Islam surpassed. The alternating bands of marble and porphyry on its exterior echo Roman techniques, while the Persian-inspired tilework added by Suleiman the Magnificent in the 16th century layers on yet another artistic dialect. Even the rock at its center, scarred by centuries of pilgrims' hands, serves as a palimpsest of faiths. Jewish tradition holds it as the world's first creation, while Muslims see the imprint of Muhammad's foot where he leapt to paradise. The dome doesn't just share sacred ground, it embodies the paradox of Jerusalem itself, where every stone tells competing stories. Yet for all its spiritual gravity, the dome's true power lies in its political symbolism. Its location on the temple Mount Haram al-Sharif to Muslims makes it the ultimate prize in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Caliph Abd al-Malik originally built it to rival Mecca during a civil war, its golden dome visible for miles as a statement of Umayyad legitimacy. Crusaders converted it into a church, Templars using its subterranean chambers as stables before Saladin reclaimed it for Islam. Today, its image graces everything from Palestinian passports to Iranian banknotes, while Israeli police control access to its gates. The dome's very existence forces an impossible question. Can a site holy to billions ever belong to anyone without excluding others? Modern technology reveals hidden dimensions of this ancient shrine. Thermographic scans show how its double dome design regulates temperature, while spectral imaging uncovers lost inscriptions beneath Suleiman's tiles. Archaeologists debate whether its foundations indeed align with the Second Temple's ruins, a controversy that could rewrite histories. But perhaps the dome's most enduring lesson is in its silence. Unlike cathedrals filled with statues or temples crowded with idols, its empty spaces speak volumes, inviting contemplation rather than dictating dogma. As sunlight filters through its stained glass windows, casting kaleidoscopic patterns on the worn stone floor, one truth becomes clear. This isn't just a monument to faith, but to the human struggle to touch the infinite without ever claiming to contain it. Glistening above its mirror, still pond like a vision from a dream, Kyoto's golden pavilion, Kinkaku-ji, seems to float between earth and sky. Every inch of its top 2 floors is sheathed in pure gold leaf, not as a display of wealth, but as a radiant meditation on enlightenment, each shimmering reflection in the water below serving as a reminder that beauty, like all things, is transient. Built in 1397 as a retirement villa for Shogun Ashikaga Yoshimitsu, this Zen Buddhist temple was never meant to endure. Its very design whispers the philosophy of wabi-sabi, that imperfection and impermanence are not flaws to be feared, but truths to be embraced. The pavilion's most profound lesson came not from its construction, but from its destruction. In 1950, a young monk named Heihachi Yokun set the structure ablaze, an act later immortalized in Yukio Mishima's novel The Temple of the Golden Pavilion. The fire reduced centuries of artistry to ashes in minutes, yet what followed was extraordinary. Instead of mourning the loss as a tragedy, the community rebuilt Kinkaku-ji exactly as it had been, not to erase the past, but to honor the cycle of death and renewal central to Buddhist thought. The gold leaf application in the 1955 reconstruction was even more meticulous, as if the flames had purified its purpose. Today, visitors see not a replica, but a living testament to Mujo, the acceptance that nothing lasts and nothing is finished. Every detail of the pavilion's design invites contemplation. The 3 distinct architectural styles stacked vertically, Shinden Zukuri samurai grandeur at the base, minimalist Buke Zukuri warrior aesthetics in the middle, and a Zen Buddhist top floor crowned with a golden phoenix, mirror the journey from earthly desires to spiritual awakening. The surrounding garden, with its carefully placed rocks and twisted pines, frames the building so perfectly that each season transforms its meaning. Cherry blossoms in spring suggest fleeting beauty, autumn maples burn with the intensity of attachment, and winter snow blankets the scene in serene detachment. Yet the true magic happens when sunlight strikes the gold leaf, casting rippling reflections across the pond. This isn't just visual poetry, it's a deliberate Zen exercise. The pavilion gazes at its own image, acknowledging its splendor while understanding it's merely a reflection, an illusion as ephemeral as human life. Even the small islands dotting the water, shaped like turtles to symbolize longevity, quietly mock our hunger for permanence. Standing before Kinkaku-ji, one realizes this isn't merely a building. It's a koan in architectural form, challenging us to admire its brilliance while letting go of the need to possess or preserve it. The gold that dazzles us today will eventually fade, the pond will ice over, and the pavilion may burn again. And in that uncertainty lies its deepest teaching, that true beauty isn't in the gold, but in the courage to love what we cannot hold. Stretching along the Neva River in a ribbon of mint green and gold, the Winter Palace wasn't built for art, it was built to intimidate. When Empress Elizabeth commissioned this Baroque behemoth in 1754, she envisioned a monument to Russian imperial might. Its 1,057 rooms and 117 staircases designed to dwarf Versailles. Yet history has a way of rewriting intentions. Today, those same gilded halls house the Hermitage Museum, where 3 million artworks, from Rembrandt's soul-piercing portraits to the eerie grace of Scythian gold, tell a far more complex story, how a fortress of aristocracy became a sanctuary for human creativity. Catherine the Great planted the seed in 1764, purchasing 255 paintings from a Berlin merchant to adorn her private retreat, the Little Hermitage. What began as a royal whim soon spiraled into obsession. She devoured entire collections, Raphael's from Rome, Rubens from Antwerp, even Leonardo da Vinci's Madonna Litta, acquired through shadowy dealers who knew no price was too high for the empress. Her agents scoured Europe like cultural privateers, their acquisitions packed in hay-lined crates and smuggled past warring armies. But here's the twist. Catherine didn't just hoard masterpieces. She curated them with scholarly precision, cataloging each piece in handwritten ledgers and hosting hermitage evenings where guests debated aesthetics over champagne. This wasn't vanity, it was a calculated effort to prove Russia wasn't a barbaric frontier, but a civilization worthy of the Renaissance's finest. The Hermitage transformation from private trove to public treasure mirrors Russia's own turbulent journey. After Catherine's death, the collection languished behind palace walls until 1852, when Nicholas I, spurred by revolutionary murmurs across Europe, opened its doors to respectable citizens. Even then, access was limited. Peasants need not apply. The Bolsheviks shattered those barriers in 1917, declaring the palace property of the people as they hauled Tsarist treasures into the light. Yet for all its newfound accessibility, the museum became a pawn in ideological battles. Stalin sold off masterpieces including Botticelli's Adoration of the Magi to fund industrialization, while Cold War curators hid controversial works like Malevich's avant-garde Black Square in storage, their radicalism too dangerous for Soviet dogma. Wandering its halls today is like stepping into a kaleidoscope of human ambition. The Malachite Room, its columns sheathed in 20 tons of Ural stone, still smells of the emergency meetings held here during the 1917 siege. The Gold Room displays Scythian necklaces so delicate they seem woven by spider silk, their nomadic creators leaving no written history beyond these shimmering whispers. And in the Italian Renaissance galleries, Titian's penitent Magdalene hangs where Catherine once stood, her tears reflecting centuries of longing for grace, for power, for immortality through beauty. The Hermitage's greatest masterpiece might be its survival. Nazi shells pockmarked its walls during the 900-day siege of Leningrad, yet curators starved rather than burn wooden sculptures for warmth. In 2014, its director defied Putin's allies by exhibiting Ukrainian avant-garde art amid rising tensions. Even now, as war and sanctions isolate Russia once more, the museum's online collections draw millions, its digital doors stubbornly open when political ones slam shut. Standing beneath the palace's gilded ceilings, you realize the Hermitage was never just a museum. It's a mirror held up to Russia's soul, at once imperial and insurgent, opulent and aching, its walls echoing with the footsteps of tsars and schoolchildren alike. And as sunlight filters through the Jordan staircase's towering windows, glinting off parquet floors worn smooth by centuries of pilgrims, one truth becomes clear: art outlives empires, and beauty, once unleashed, refuses to be recaged. Hidden beneath the earth in Ethiopia's highlands, the rock-hewn churches of Lalibela aren't just carved into the landscape, they're excavated from it, as if the very mountains were sculpted by divine hand. In the 12th century, King Lalibela envisioned a New Jerusalem for pilgrims who could no longer reach the Holy Land after its capture by Muslim forces. What emerged was a labyrinth of 11 monolithic churches, each chiseled downward from volcanic basalt, their roofs flush with the ground like stepping stones to another world. The most astonishing isn't their scale, though some stretch 40 feet high, but their precision. Workers didn't build upward, they dug downward, painstakingly removing rock to reveal windows, columns, and arches already waiting inside the stone, like uncovering a hidden masterpiece rather than creating one. Step inside Beta Georgis, the Church of St. George, and you'll find a perfect cross shape sinking 3 stories into the earth, its walls adorned with frescoes of saints whose eyes seem to follow you in the flickering light of oil lamps. The ceilings are so precisely joined that not a sliver of sunlight slips through, while hidden trenches channel rainwater away, preserving delicate carvings of winged angels and Coptic crosses. But the real marvel lies beneath your feet. Tunnels connect the churches like a sacred subway system, some wide enough for processions, others so narrow pilgrims must squeeze through sideways, a physical metaphor for the narrow path to salvation. These passageways weren't just practical, they were spiritual theater reenacting journeys between biblical sites. One tunnel, pitch black and zigzagging, is said to represent the road to hell, emerging abruptly into the light of a courtyard symbolizing resurrection. Lalibella's isolation only heightens its global significance. While Europe raised Gothic cathedrals skyward, these churches burrowed earthward, their architects trading flying buttresses for the sheer weight of living rock. Yet they were never cut off from the world. Armenian traders brought grapevine motifs that twine around Ethiopian crosses, while Byzantine influences echo in the almond-shaped eyes of painted saints. Even the tools tell a story. Local lore claims angels joined the laborers at night, their chisels moving twice as fast. The truth is humbler but no less extraordinary. Generations of craftsmen passed down techniques unchanged since Aksumite times, their iron tools sharpened with obsidian. Today, the churches pulse with life during Timkat, the Epiphany celebration, when priests in embroidered robes parade replica Ark of the Covenant through torchlit tunnels, and the faithful gather in white shawls to chant hymns older than the Reformation. The stone floors, worn smooth by 8 centuries of bare feet, gleam like polished marble. Yet this living heritage faces silent threats. Erosion gnaws at soft volcanic rock, while UNESCO protective shelters meant to shield the churches from rain trap humidity, accelerating decay. Restoration teams now use 3D scanners to map every fissure, blending medieval devotion with space-age tech. As dawn breaks over Lalibela, casting long shadows across the trench-carved courtyards, the churches seem to breathe with the rhythms of faith and time. They stand not as relics but as witnesses to a radical idea, that holiness isn't found in height but in depth, not in reaching for the sky but in uncovering the sacred hidden beneath our feet. And perhaps that's their enduring lesson, that sometimes the most profound connections to the divine begin with a descent. Piercing the Toronto skyline like a beacon of 20th century ambition, the CN Tower redefined what a modern monument could be. When this concrete and steel giant opened in 1976, it wasn't just breaking records, it was shattering expectations. At 1,815 feet, it claimed the title of world's tallest freestanding structure, a crown it wore proudly for over 3 decades. But here's what makes it extraordinary. This wasn't some vanity project or ancient religious spire. This was a working communications tower, a feat of engineering designed to solve a very modern problem. Toronto's exploding skyline of skyscrapers was disrupting television and radio signals. The solution: build something so impossibly tall that its microwave dishes could beam signals clear over every obstacle, stitching Canada's vast distances together with invisible waves. The tower's design is a masterclass in balancing form and function. Its sleek, tapered silhouette isn't just for aesthetics. The hexagonal core and 3 curved support legs distribute wind pressure so effectively that even during fierce storms, the sway at the top is barely perceptible. 34 massive steel cables run through the concrete like tendons, keeping the structure rigid yet resilient. And then there's the sky pod, that bulbous observation deck 790 feet up, which wasn't an afterthought but an integral part of the structural design. Its weight acts as a counterbalance, stabilizing the entire tower like a tightrope walker's pole. This isn't just architecture, it's physics carved into the sky. But the CN Tower's true genius lies in how it transformed utility into wonder. The glass floor on the main observation level, a heart-stopping feature added in 1994, lets visitors stare straight down 1,122 feet to the streets below. It's a visceral reminder of human audacity, turning vertigo into entertainment. Then there's the edge walk, where thrill seekers harness to an overhead rail inch along a 5-foot-wide ledge outside the pod, leaning back over nothing but air. These aren't just tourist gimmicks, they're carefully engineered experiences that make the intangible tangibility of height and human ingenuity feel personal. By night, the tower becomes something else entirely, a celestial canvas. Its mast pulses with aircraft warning lights, while LED installations bathe the concrete in shifting colors to mark holidays or global events. During the pandemic, it glowed blue for healthcare workers. On Canada Day, it becomes a cascading waterfall of red and white. This chameleon-like quality reveals the tower's deeper role, a barometer of collective emotion, reflecting the nation's triumphs and struggles back to itself. Standing at its base today, it's easy to forget how revolutionary this structure once was. In an era when most towers served singular purposes, the CN Tower dared to be more, a working tool, a civic symbol, and a daredevil's playground all at once. Its legacy isn't just in the records it broke, but in how it taught us that even the most functional creations can stir the soul. As the sun sets over Lake Ontario, painting the tower's concrete in fiery hues, one truth becomes clear. Greatness isn't just about reaching upward, it's about inviting everyone to share the view. In the heart of Madurai, where the scent of jasmine mingles with temple incense, the Meenakshi Temple rises like a sandstone dream. This isn't just architecture, it's a cosmic love story carved in stone. 14 towering gopurams, their surfaces teeming with over 33,000 painted sculptures, reach skyward like a divine wedding cake, each tier whispering tales of gods and mortals. At its core lies the celestial union of Meenakshi, the fish-eyed goddess, and Sundeshwar, an incarnation of Shiva, a marriage so sacred it's reenacted annually in a festival that turns the entire city into a bridal procession. The temple's layout mirrors this mythic romance. Concentric corridors spiral inward toward the sanctums, symbolizing the soul's journey toward divine union, while the golden lotus tank reflects the gopurams upside down, as if heaven itself has leaned down to kiss the earth. What sets Meenakshi apart isn't merely its scale, it's how faith here isn't confined to rituals but spills into every crack of daily life. At dawn, flower vendors heap marigolds into rainbow mounds for devotees to offer, while priests chant beneath the 1,000-pillar hall, its granite columns each carved with unique musical notes that echo when struck. The temple's northern corridor buzzes with a marketplace where artisans hammer silver ornaments for deities, and students hunch over palm leaf manuscripts in shadowed alcoves. This is Hinduism as a sensory symphony, where theology tastes like coconut prasadam, sounds like anklets ringing on dancing feet, and looks like the nightly ceremony when Meenakshi's idol is ritually undressed and tucked into bed with lullabies. The temple's sculptures reveal a democracy of the divine. Alongside gods and goddesses, you'll find Portuguese soldiers with muskets, Persian traders leading camels, even a misbehaving monkey stealing sweets, proof that nothing human was alien to its artists. The famous Hall of Echoes holds another marvel, a single pillar carved with 1008 miniature Shivas, each dancing a different step of the cosmic Tandava. Stand close and you'll notice the stone seems to breathe, a clever trick of shadow and proportion that makes the figures pulse as you move. Modern technology has unveiled deeper layers of this living monument. Laser scans show hidden passageways used by priests to create miracles during festivals, while spectral imaging reveals pigments made from crushed pearls and sapphires in the murals. Yet for all its grandeur, Meenakshi's true magic lies in its unbroken thread of devotion. The same bronze processional icons polished by generations of hands still glide through the streets during Chitharai festival, their reflections shimmering in buckets of milk and honey poured by ecstatic crowds. As the evening arti lamps circle Meenakshi's sanctum, their light flickering across 1,000 faces, the boundary between myth and reality dissolves, and for a fleeting moment, the gods feel as close as your own heartbeat. Rising above Brussels like a crystallized dream of the future, the atomium gleams as a monument to humanity's faith in science and its capacity for reinvention. Built for the 1958 World's Fair, this towering structure of 9 interconnected spheres wasn't just an exhibition pavilion. It was a bold declaration that Europe, still scarred by war, dared to imagine a brighter atomic age. Its design, a 165 billion times magnification of an iron crystal's molecular structure, turned abstract science into soaring architecture. Each aluminum-clad sphere, some housing exhibition spaces, others threaded by escalators that seem to defy gravity, whispers the same promise that progress isn't just possible, it's inevitable. Yet the atomium's brilliance lies in its contradictions. Conceived as a temporary exhibit, it became so beloved that Brussels couldn't bear to dismantle it. The original escalators, installed as cutting-edge marvels, now charm visitors with their retro-futurism, a reminder that yesterday's visions of tomorrow inevitably become today's nostalgia. Even its symbolism evolved, where the 9 spheres once represented the 9 founding nations of the European coal and steel community. They now stand as a testament to unity's enduring appeal despite political turbulence. The uppermost sphere, with its panoramic views of Brussels, offers more than a scenic overlook. It's a vantage point from which to reflect on how far we've come and how much further we've yet to go. Inside, the atomium refuses to be a time capsule, where mid-century exhibits once marveled at atomic energy's peaceful potential. Today's installations tackle climate change, space exploration, and digital revolutions. The sphere that once showcased the kitchen of tomorrow now hosts debates on sustainable food systems, proving the building's true purpose isn't to predict the future, but to provoke conversations about it. By night, its LED-lit facade transforms into a dynamic canvas pulsing during scientific conferences, glowing blue for UN initiatives, or shimmering like a nebula during astronomy festivals. This adaptability reveals the atomium's secret. It's not a relic of post-war optimism, but a living lab for 21st century dreams. Standing beneath its gleaming curves, you realize the atomium's greatest lesson. Unlike ancient monuments that speak of finished triumphs, this one hums with unfinished business. Its restoration in 2006 didn't erase the patina of time. It added new layers, just as each generation must reinterpret progress for its own era. The escalator ride between spheres feels symbolic. We're always in transit between past and future, between what science can achieve and what society chooses to do with it. And as the sunlight catches its aluminum skin, turning it molten gold, the atomium seems to whisper that the future isn't a destination. It's a structure we're all still building, one sphere at a time. From the towering ambition of the Great Pyramid to the quiet resilience of Lalibella's rock-hewn churches, these 40 monuments are more than relics of the past, they're conversations frozen in time. Each stone, each archway, each golden spire whispers a question. What does it mean to build something that outlasts us? The answer isn't just in the grandeur of these structures, but in the human impulses they reveal. Göbekli Tepe's ancient pillars remind us that communal belief predated cities, while the Burj Khalifa's glass-clad heights reflect our unyielding drive to conquer new frontiers. The Parthenon's democratic ideals and the Taj Mahal's aching love story prove that architecture isn't just about function, it's about etching our deepest values into the earth itself. But monuments are also mirrors, reflecting both our brilliance and our blind spots. The Colosseum's engineering marvels can't erase the blood spilled in its arena, just as the Forbidden City's exquisite courtyards can't mask the isolation of imperial power. These contradictions matter. They show us that civilization isn't a straight line toward progress, but a spiral of triumphs and reckonings. Even the Statue of Liberty, a global symbol of freedom, carries the quiet tension between aspiration and exclusion, her torch lighting the way for some while others still wait in the shadows. What binds these landmarks across millennia isn't their materials or their size, but the audacity they represent. The builders of Stonehenge hauled 25-ton stones without wheels. The makers of Petra carved an empire's wealth into desert cliffs. Every generation has its own way of reaching beyond the possible, whether through the celestial mathematics of Angkor or the sustainable innovations of the Burj Khalifa. The real wonder isn't that these monuments exist, but that ordinary people dared to imagine them. So as we stand in the shadow of these giants, the most pressing question isn't just what they say about the past, but how they speak to our future. Will our skyscrapers and memorials tell stories of division or unity, of extraction or harmony with the planet? The monuments we choose to build and those we choose to preserve will be the legacy we leave for civilizations yet unborn. Perhaps the greatest lesson these 40 wonders offer is this: building is easy compared to the harder work of deciding what deserves to endure. Now it's your turn. Which monument speaks most powerfully to you, and what do you hope future generations will build? Drop your thoughts below, and let's keep this conversation spanning the ages. If this journey through time left you as awestruck as we were, don't let the conversation end here. Tap that like button to let us know which monument stopped you in your tracks, and hit subscribe so you never miss our next expedition into history's hidden corners. Your curiosity fuels these adventures, and who knows, the monument you're most passionate about, whether it's the celestial precision of Angkor or the raw ambition of the Burj Khalifa, could become the star of a future deep dive. Drop a comment below sharing which of these wonders resonated with you and why. Was it the haunting solitude of Easter Island's Moai, or perhaps the democratic ideals etched into the Parthenon's marble? Your perspective might just reveal a fresh angle we haven't explored yet. Together, let's keep unraveling the stories hidden in stone, because history isn't just about looking back, it's about connecting the dots to who we are today. Ready for the next chapter? We'll see you in the comments and in the next video. Until then, keep wondering just